Today is the day. That's right. After months and months of grueling competition from millions down to just 16. And after today, 8 will join our illustrious golden ticket holders. Hello, everybody. I am Andrew Guy. Joining me today, Joshua AC Sharon, our 2-time regional champ. And for me, a first time ever, Juicy J, World Champion 2019 WCG over in Xi'an, China. What's up, boys? It's so great to see you. We got an exciting day of action and how we got here, right? That's the story about today. How did we get here after this entire year of competition? Well, for you guys that are just joining us today, we had 6 community events, 6 community tournaments, and now we are in our summer qualifier of Clash Royale League. There's been 4 stages that have already taken place, and now we are in the 5th stage today here in the Swiss bracket triple elimination. Guys, it's really exciting to be here. How you doing today?
Fantastic. I couldn't even sleep. I want to get this going.
Good to hear, good to hear. All right, we'll catch up with Juicy J in a second. Like I said, Swiss bracket stage 5, that's where we are today. Tomorrow, 2 more players will qualify, which means over the next 24 hours, we will get 10 competitors to join the other 6 for our world final. 16 competitors competing for over $1 million in cash prizes throughout the year. And like I said, we are in stage 5. 16 players today. 8 players will move on to our world finals. The other 8 will move on to our LCQ. How does it work? Well, you guys see the stages. You just saw them right there. It's been all best of 3 duel mode. And like I said, the top 10, 8 from today, 2 from tomorrow, will move on to Helsinki for those world finals. AC, they got to get through a Swiss bracket, but there's a little bit of a caveat on this Swiss bracket, right?
Yeah, so I know the bracket, I know this looks a little bit confusing, but let me break it down to its simplest form. You win 3, you move on. You lose 3, you are out. Well, I mean, sort of. You still have one more shot. So here it is. Everybody on the day, 0-0, you have your first opponent. If you win, you play another player who's won their first game. If you lose, you go against another player that has lost their game. And so it keeps on going. 2 wins against 2 wins, 2 losses versus 2 losses. And the magic number, the same thing as last week, the same thing that Rich was saying. You win 3, lucky number 3, or you lose 3, the haunted number 3. And Juicy, I heard we might be playing for a little bit of cash?
Yeah, just a little bit. So prize pool, $1 million. Everyone so far has made it into the money, but that top 16 is where they're trying to get. Once you get to the top 16, you make it to Finland, and you're competing for that grand prize of $250,000. That is a lot of money, Andrew.
That's right, man. $250K for that first place spot, but as you just mentioned, $20K to everyone that gets that ticket to go to Helsinki. We got to say hello to Josh. Juicy J, welcome to the broadcast, man. How you feeling today?
I'm feeling great. I'm pumped. I'm excited, and I'm ready to watch some Clash Royale.
All right, we got a little bit of time before we're going to hop into the matches. We're going to start with Morten and KK. More on that in just a second. Obviously, 2 of our favorite players. We've been watching them for year after year now. But we have an emergency nerf coming in. Giant Skeleton and Mirror. Juicy, you've been playing that Giant Skeleton drill deck. I've been watching you on stream. But AC, Mirror, 3 Musketeers, they're a match made in heaven. How do you feel about the Mirror nerf?
You know, I was saying it before the show, I really love Mirror. I think it's such a fun card. There's so many different opportunities to use it, but it's really fun when you play the game only for fun. In the classic challenges, messing around using randomized decks with Mirror involved, it's a great card that way. When it's in the meta for competitive, it is so frustrating. The synergy between the Mirror, the Pump, and the champions is disgusting. You shouldn't be able to pump, use a champion, defend 18 elixir, and then pump again. It is so frustrating to go against. And I gotta say, very happy to see it get that emergency nerf.
Okay, good to hear there. Even though you did throw my classic challenges under the bus, I will let it slide this one time. They do take skill. They do take a little bit of skill. Juicy J, a guy that I'm sure has no problem getting through his CC. Talk to me about how you feel about the Giant Skelly nerf. I know you've been playing that Giant Skeleton Archer Queen drill deck, as has everyone else in the world, whether it's in competitive grand challenges, top ladder. How do you feel about the Giant Skelly nerf?
Yeah, I think it's really important nerf. Probably one of the best cards in the meta right now. I think that 5% HP nerf is actually going to be pretty huge. A lot of the time, the Giant Skeleton is just barely making it to that tower, just with a little sliver HP, and it gets a lot of damage. And with that 5% HP nerf, those sort of interactions are going to change quite a bit.
That's a really good point that you make. That usually is when the Giant Skelly is the most brutal, is when you have to spend that last little bit of 2-3 elixir because you know he's going to get to the tower, and that kind of sets you up for disaster over the next minute. Nerf's not in yet, though, so I'm sure we'll see a lot of Giant Skeleton today. AC, we're going to say goodbye to you for the moment. Goodbye to you, my friend. We'll catch up with him in just a moment after match number 1. Juicy J, Morten, KK, 2 of the best in the world. Japan, Germany, veterans, content creators. How you feeling about our first matchup here of the day?
Honestly, it's going to be fun to watch. Like you said, 2 veteran players. They know what they're doing. They have the experience. They're probably really excited. I think it's going to come down to deck picks, but also, I mean, composure. Like, who can draw on their experience the best? Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, Morten is a guy that for a long time, people have kind of talked about his deck decision in competition, especially once he gets deeper in competition, and people have been kind of critical of it. I know that we've been somewhat critical of it here in the booth in the past, but it does feel like in 2022, he's gotten a little bit better at locking that down, but still, obviously needing a little bit of help from an analyst, I think is always the best way to go. KK, on the other side of it, is someone that maybe isn't as much of a... You'd be shocked if he wasn't at World Finals, whereas it feels like Morten, he's been at every single World Finals forever, it feels like, right? He's a guy that you can always bet on at least making it close. And at this point where we're at, with down to just 16 players in the world with the other 6 that already have golden tickets, do you have a player that it feels more correct to be at World Finals, or that you would be more shocked if they weren't at World Finals? It's tough with both of these big names.
Yeah, absolutely. I talked about it last week. I've been talking about it on Twitter. I think Morten has a really solid chance of winning this World Finals because of his experience. And, you know, with a lot of the players being online only players, I think that like offline experience is really important. If he can make it through, I can definitely see him winning that, just based on that.
Yeah, and it's a great point that you make, especially as a guy that won a championship in a different country on a big stage. You know how important that is. Looks like we're going to be seeing a mirror matchup here, at least so far here in matchup number 1 of the day. KK, top of your screen, Morten at the bottom. You can see where they got here through the ladder. Morten had a little bit more success than KK, but it doesn't really matter. It's all reset to 0 here today. And Juicy, how you feel about this deck? I know this has been one of the most popular decks in the game for a very long time. It got a little quiet during the E-Giant meta because everyone was playing E-Giant, including you. But this deck never really disappeared.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great deck. Royal Hogs, Archer Queen, EQ. Royal Hogs are just always finding a way to connect to the tower, it seems. Always getting a little bit of chip damage. The Archer Queen synergizes really well with that royal delivery, allowing units to come forward and get that roll delivery down in defense, getting a lot of value that way. Looks like we are going to be seeing a opposite lane match here. I think the roll delivery is by far the most important thing in this deck because it is so good at countering those pigs and those deliveries.
Yeah, when you talk about, you know, matchups and knowing how to play through matchups, obviously mirror matchups is a different conversation. Is there a key to victory with this specific mirror matchup that you found in the past, or is it kind of situational based on the game and your competitor?
Yeah, I think the most important part of this matchup is like anti-earthquake cannon placements. So we can see Morten using those anti-earthquake cannon placements, but he's not using a cycle card to push that last piggy over the cannon. And that's what it's allowing KK get a little bit of chip damage on this left-hand side so far. And I think just one more thing I would say is because of how valuable the roll delivery is, a lot of the time Earthquake Cycle is a big thing in this kind of matchup.
I love that you talked about using those Skellies to push the hog aside. It's one of my favorite interactions in the game. It's one that you only see at the highest level, and it's one that's really, really important in these Earthquake Cannon mirror matchups. And like you just talked about or intimated, you know, how important Earthquake is going to be, KK already working on that. And this time KK completely missing the pull and the push. The Skellies come down and the cannon does, but no hogs go to the cannon, and the Skellies not putting in a lot of DPS there. So KK's still in the lead with an EQ cycle, a little bit of touch there. 2020 over to 2018, separated by 2 HP. Morten just barely in the lead.
Yeah, Morten slightly missing that cannon with the Earthquake there at the end. I think he could have got a little bit more damage there. I like the Queen in the back on the right-hand side. A lot of the time, you want to be going Queen in the back on your healthy side tower because it could be considered like Earthquake and log value, just cycling your spells on that sort of thing. He goes for some pigs on the left-hand side here. I'm not sure why. I think focusing on one lane in this matchup is really important. Morten is getting a lot of damage on both sides, though. Maybe that could be helpful for him later down the line by like being able to split his pigs to prevent that roll delivery value.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, though, man. It's really tough in these mirror matchups, especially with this type of mirror matchup. The games usually come down to the difference of just one hog hit or a couple EQ cycles. So splitting that damage in the game through, like midway through the game, as you can see, now KK is firmly in the lead. Couple hundred HP on one side, a few hundred HP on the other. Morten now going with a 4 split to the one side, AQ to the other. Looks like he was maybe going to go for the 3-1, but he goes 4-0.
Earthquake does take that cannon out quite nicely, but Morten's just not having a easy time like breaking through KK's defense right now. And as it heads into the final stage of this match, Triple Elixir, I think Earthquake cycle is going to be the determining factor. And that Queen 3-card cycle is really important as well. You got to keep your Queen alive so you can cycle more Earthquakes, and that's exactly what KK's doing right now.
I don't know how much I love that Morten is sending those hogs in the left-hand lane, because you're getting a royal delivery to come down and then lead that counter push every single time. It's not a huge thing, but it's just a little bit that KK is not doing on the other side of it, that Morten doesn't have to deal with, or that Morten is not doing for KK, and because of it, you see KK up ahead again, still by 200 HP.
Yeah, that last defense is really clean by KK, using that anti-Earthquake cannon placement, pushing over with the Fire Spirit. Morten's doing everything he can to try and, you know, maybe come back with an Archer Queen hit or two, but overall, KK focused on one tower throughout this match, while Morten was, like, basically splitting up his focus on both towers, and KK is going to take the W there with some nice defense and some Earthquake cycles.
Yeah, I mean, you add up the HP remaining on both sides. You see 1113 there, and on the other side, I think it's like 1400 something. So KK ahead by just a few, and that all comes from, I think, exactly what you're talking about, man. Morten would go opposite lane. He's trying to create pressure, trying to make KK make mistakes, whereas I think KK maybe respected Morten's defense a little bit more and just goes, all right, I'm not going to break through. I'm not going to make you make a mistake, so let's just EQ cycle when we don't have a better option.
Absolutely, and that's what he did really well as well, like KK just having perfect defense there, almost never taking any hoggies damage.
So here we go, game number 2. Morten down 1, and obviously 3 is the magic number on the day. You win 3, you move on, you lose 3, you go home. Well, technically you go to tomorrow's LCQ. Same time, same place. 2 more people will qualify. The final 2 people will qualify for our World Finals tomorrow. So make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel as we move into game number 2. Looks like Royal Giant top of our screen. Going to be Mighty Miner Bait at the bottom.
Yeah, Mighty Miner Bait with guards. I like the guards pick here. Obviously, can't use skeletons. It is the duels formatting here. But the guards are really useful, like defensively, especially if KK is using Royal Giant. Guard's one of the best Royal Giant counters. With the cage, I feel like it could be something other than Royal Giant, like maybe an Electro Giant or even a recruit stack. But with the Hunter, I'd say you're absolutely right in that E-Spear as well.
Yeah, definitely a weird composition here from KK. I can see what you're talking about. It's still being E-Giant, and, you know, we'll see if he does go with the RG that we're both kind of guessing at. And like you're saying, those guards going to be put in great work. Not going to give up as easy piggies to that Mother Witch, or at least gives you a little bit more time to respond. Not sure what Morten's big spell is with Snowball coming down. Dark Goblin does get on tower, and the Snowball comes in. That is a great Snowball from Morten. Dark Goblin goes to town. RG comes down in the back, 1506 to 2 healthy towers. And that is a great spot for Morten, who keeps up the pressure. And that is pretty classic for that man when he knows that an RG push is coming down the opposite lane.
Absolutely. That was insane. That Dark Goblin took like half that tower with one connection. The Snowball is really important there, just slowing everything down. KK is coming in with this RG push, but he has the bomb tower. He's got the Mighty Miner. I mean, I would say 1 or 2 RG hits max on this right side.
Yeah, you know, one shot comes in. That actually would have been perfectly defended had Morten not let that Dark Goblin get pulled by the Fisherman. So even with that slight error, Morten has a nice defense. Another Dark Goblin coming down. Bomb Tower in as well. Bomb Tower does not pull the RG. And that is a crazy interaction for Morten. Not what he needs to see here. And another shot comes in. 13-10 to 11-44. And just like that, we're all even up.
Yeah, Bomb Tower just came down a little bit late there. Surprising to see Morten make a big mistake like that. and it's really close. I still think Morton wins this game, especially with these mirror barrels coming in, and KK just not having the log. He used it in that last match, used the log and the roll delivery last match. Morton, I really like Morton's deck pick here, like based off that information. It's really hard for KK to deal with this. He does have the Dark Prince, he has the Hunter, but those goblins are always getting stabs.
Oh,
And
Dark Goblin
there's
gets
Dark
on the
Goblin
tower.
connection.
That is massive, man. 5-7, 57. Not going to be enough with the rocket. We're going to game number 3. And a slight misstep from Morton made that game maybe a little bit closer than it needed to be. But for the most part, it felt like he was in the driver's seat that whole time, Juicy.
Absolutely. I mean, I definitely think he's a solid match there. KK just not having the right responses for those barrels and those mirror barrels.
Yeah, great call there by Morton. Maybe a little bit of a error there on KK's side, just not thinking about bait. Morton being one of the most famous bait players in the world, or to ever play the game, and obviously 4 decks are available, so it's always hard, but you figure if log is out, delivery's out,
Yeah.
Morton might want to go to bait.
Yeah, absolutely. The Tombstone for Morton, Bar Barrel, and a Miner coming down. I would not be
Lava?
surprised to see Morton using some lava here. Absolutely.
Yeah.
KK most likely going to be using a fairly popular drill bridge spam variation with Magic Archer and stuff. There's the Magic Archer in the back.
And a nice connection there for KK. Golden Knight gets a few swings in on top of that dash. And Morton just taking a little bit of chip damage here with the arrows.
Arrow's not quite taking that Magic Archer out. I'm guessing, yep, he's going to be applying some pressure, forcing out this Flying Machine. Flying Machine does a really nice job, and a really nice Skelly King placement as well.
Yeah.
Making sure to prevent any sort of drill connection there.
Miner maybe coming out. There it is, Miner defensively. Flying Machine, like you said, Juicy, absolutely phenomenally placed there. Picks off the Magic Archer, turns around, gets on top of that drill. Skeleton King gets a few souls, and I like that we're not seeing the ability use here from Morton. Good use of patience and discipline.
Absolutely. I think with KK just not having a big spell to deal with that Flying Machine and these Skeleton Dragons, I think we're seeing, yet again, just another nice deck pick from Morton here. Ewiz will connect a little bit on this right-hand side, but overall, I think Morton's just trying to survive till that double elixir, where he can build up a big lava push that will be unstoppable.
Yeah, that was a little bit of an over-aggressive Ewiz there from KK. You recognize what he was going for, knowing that Morton doesn't have a lot of ground responses, maybe thinking that Skeleton King wasn't back around, or maybe Miner, one of them wasn't, but the Tombstone plus the arrows did a really good job of cleaning most of that up, and I think you hit the nail on the head there, Juicy. I think Morton just wants to get to double elixir, which we are at right now, and now we're going to see a little bit more pressure from the German.
Yeah, lava in back, big push coming in. How is KK going to respond to this? He does not have the best air counters. He does have a tornado, but it's not going against the lava loon, going against just like a lava spam variation. That tornado does not help you out very much. I like the pressure in the ops lane. You got to make sure to force out some elixir on the defense, or else this push will just be unstoppable.
Maybe arrows coming down here from Morton soon to take away that Magic Archer. No, Flying Machine tries to lock on, but a last-second NATO pulls it away. That's actually a really nice NATO, so Miner goes on top of the Magic Archer still, and it looks like Morton might be running away with this game. Flying Machine locks on, nothing to get on top of the Flying Machine, and now a Desperation Golden Knight at the bridge from KK. Tombstone going to be more than enough to clean it up. Morton goes 1-0 in our opening set of the day.
Yeah, actually insane reverse sweep from Morton there. Once again, really good deck picks. I think I called it at the start of this match. Like, whoever's got the better deck picks are definitely going to take the W in a very solid match between two experienced players like this.
Yeah, great call there, Juicy. I mean, you talk about where we were at the end of game number 1. We get a weird mirror matchup, not one that we see a lot. You know, we don't really see the AQ Royal Hogs EQ mirror match a bunch right now, at least in the current meta that we're in. We see the KK outplays Morton there, maybe a little bit better cannon placement, maybe a little bit better use of those bait cards, like you said, to push those Hoggies where he needed them, and then go to game 2, bait, no log, no delivery, go to game 3. Great use of the lava there by Morton. A lot of fun here in our first matchup of the day. Juicy, anything that really stood out to you in the gameplay? Any big errors, big swings, anything that you think we should write home about?
Honestly, not perfect play from both players. I think the most important part of that match was Morton's miss on the bomb tower, but ended up not mattering at all just because of how solid the matchup was. I think KK played really well for what he had in that matchup. He did use that Hunter placement behind the barrels, able to one-shot and take out all those goblins a couple times there, but outcycling the Hunter, he doesn't have a great response other than like Fireball, but always taking negative elixir trades against those Goblin Barrels is a huge thing throughout the match.
Yeah, you know, and you saw there just really great deck picks from Morten, which is something that we always kind of worry about with him, and it seems like it's something that he's kind of gotten better at here in 2022. So we got Air Surfer running a different version of what looks like Lava Hound at the bottom of your screen. Lava comes down, and Hugo, top of our screen here, the Frenchman, who is not surprisingly running Mortar. It's one of his favorite archetypes that he plays, period. But it is an odd deck, which is one that kind of showed up a couple weeks ago. I believe Arrows is the last card. We'll see how it fares.
Yeah, these basically mortar fireball bait decks, kind of spam decks, are really interesting. You basically use the arrows. I mean, it's really good for duels because, you know, there's only so many spells in the game. But by only having one spell, you can just fit even more spam, even more bait into the deck. And it looks like it's just not enough. Air Surfer making a huge push here. Lava Hound actually taking the second win today. What do you think about that, Lava Hound?
Yeah, I was just going to say, that's actually really surprising there. And you see Air Surfer doing it with a different one. Has Fireball and Zap with those Skeleton Dragons. Probably made the Magic Archers and those Minion Hordes a lot less effective than we would have liked to see. Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say, before we hopped into that game, Juicy, we've seen Lava twice now. We've seen Mirror. We haven't seen Giant Skelly, right? Like, Giant Skelly feels like the one thing that's missing here, the one part of the equation that would make a lot more sense in our first couple matches of the day. But we did see the Mirror come out, right? And we saw how effective Mirror was, and again, to go back to the emergency nerf and in competitive, it's tough because I do think there are interesting decks. I'm not a big fan of the Mighty Miner Mirror Goblin Barrel deck, but I do think it takes a lot of skill to play, and I do think it's a great dual mode deck. But I also agree with what AC said before, in that it just doesn't work throughout the entire competitive scene. Anyway, that's just a little tangential thought. We see there Air Surfer, a veteran, got kind of moving forward through Hugo. Hugo's still alive, and then, of course, KK dropping to Morten early on. Lot of Lava Hound. I mean, what is it with Lava, Juicy? Is there something that I'm missing? Is it because of what's popular in the meta right now? It seems like there's maybe a lot more ground game. Why do you think Lava is showing up today?
I mean, maybe it does have to do with the giant skeleton. Just like being able to have flying units that aren't influenced by that strong Giant Skelly. Giant Skelly just has a way of defending any sort of ground-based deck. So maybe Lava just sneak in the meta because of that. I think the other thing to really think about is in the duels formatting, you know, there's only so many really good air counters in the game. So maybe when we see some of those air counters come out in early matches, Lava Hound from Air Surfer there in the third game or second or third game could be really good with maybe like an Inferno Tower or something out. That's a good thing to think about, I'd say.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point that you make, talking about, you know, I think both parts of it, ways to defend the air with, you know, the cards that are the most popular in the meta right now. I mean, like you said, Inferno Tower, probably Magic Archer, Ewiz is pretty popular, Hunter showing up a little bit more. And then also when you talk about the other side of just, you know, pulling it out later in the set. You know, it's one of those things that when cards are missing, it's a really great thing. AQ is probably going to be used a lot earlier in sets, so you bust it out in games 2 or games 3, you might have a little bit more success. Maybe that's what we're talking about. Maybe it was just a fluke. Maybe we're going to see a lot more Giant Skeleton as we move on through the day. A lot more action coming your way today, guys. You can always check out your tournament hub in-game or on your phone, on your tablet, to go and keep along with the action that you're not seeing here on broadcast. And right now we're just kind of waiting for round number 2 to start. Yeah, I mean, it's been a lot of fun, and I think, you know, to go back to something that you were talking about at the top of the show, since we have just a little bit of time, Juicy, is that idea of playing in front of crowds. You know, I think even here today in our last qualifier, I think with the LCQ, there's a lot of pressure coming in on these players, but it's nothing like playing live in person. I mean, what was it like for you in those grand finals? Do you remember back in 2019? It's been a few years. What's that pressure like on stage?
The pressure is crazy. I think it really takes a specific kind of person to be able to perform well in a situation like that. I think even the best players, like Muhammad Light, could play drastically differently in front of a huge crowd. And it just takes either practice, or I think there's a talent aspect as well. Who knows? Maybe Muhammad Light, he's just a stone cold guy. Like, he just does not care who's watching him. He doesn't care about the crowd. Maybe we'll perform at a level that no one expects, but I mean, I think that I think that the crowd is definitely a lot different from playing online.
Yeah, well, another guy who knows a lot about playing in front of a crowd, Joshua AC Sharon. AC, how you doing? Talk to me a little bit about Lava Hound. Why are we seeing it, and how you feeling about it?
Well, you know, I think it's kind of similar to the Royal Hogs Archer Queen deck, where it's just kind of working in the meta right now, based off the champions, based off the mirror success, and the Mother Witch deck. It just kind of works. There's a lot of good matchups. Even, you know, you get the drill or you get the giant skeleton mirror. You can just kind of work around a lot of things. And I think that's basically it. I still don't find it to be the strongest deck whatsoever. I think we really saw some golden matchups for the Lava, and so it just looks really, really strong. Overall, I do predict that we will see it more throughout the day, but I definitely don't see it within that like top 5, top 7 deck range that a lot of players are using.
And do you think we just got lucky with Giant Skeleton, or do you think players are already starting to shy away from the big guy just because they're getting ready for World Finals? They don't want to keep leaning on him, or do you think it's a mistake? Do you think people should be leaning on that Giant Skeleton while he's still strong? I mean, a lot of people talked about him as championship level capabilities in game. Is it a mistake, or do you think it's smart?
Well, you know, I was, watching some of the games on the side. I was looking through Royale API to check it, and a lot of players aren't using Giant Skeleton. I personally don't believe it's due to anything related to worried about the future. I think players are always just focused on what's happening right now. But yeah, I think we will see more of it, but I wouldn't be shocked if it's just going to go less and less just because so many players have tried workarounds with those cards.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good thing that you checked it out. I've been very curious about it, but I'm going to step back. Maybe I'll see some Giant Skeleton. You guys are going to carry the load now. Vitor and Nikoko, have fun, boys. I'll see you in a minute.
See ya.
And there we go. Another time where we don't have to throw anybody off camera. They just do it themselves. It really is just shocking how well they are able to do that. So we do have, who was it? It was Vitor and Nikoko. So Vitor, actually explain to me, who do you got, and what decks do you see Vitor running this set?
I think I'm gonna choose Vitor here. I'm not sure. I'm guessing maybe some lighter decks, maybe some cycle decks at the start. I definitely think that we could see some heavier stuff as the game progresses. We talked about it a little bit last game there, but basically I think as certain cards make it out of the game because of the duels formatting, I think the Lava or Golem even, or maybe even E-Giant could come later in the set. But I think at the start of the set, we're always going to be seeing, Mortar, Miner, Drill, those quicker cycle, more consistent sources of damage kind of decks.
Okay, and then on Nikoko's side, I'm looking through his battle log right now. Game 1, he did use... Just kidding. Game 1, he did use Hog EQ, but a different variation, one with Mighty Miner instead of the Law Quicker Cycles. Game 2, he ran Lava Loon, and Game 3, he ran Archer Queen Mirror E-Barbs. So he's actually ran quite a few decks that are just fully off meta compared to what most people are sticking with. Do you expect to see that more? Or is it just because he was going against Doom, who himself used Graveyard Freeze and Three Musketeers Pump in 2 of his games?
Yeah, it's hard to say. Hopping in the first match here, looks like Vitor is going to be using RG, and Nikoko is using a really interesting quick cycle bait deck. What do you think about this deck at the top here?
Yeah, this deck was really, really solid when it first came out. So many people were messing around with it. Oh, it's under 2.3 elixir. The pros are going to go wild with that kind of deck. But I'm not personally too big a fan of it. I think too often you can get those lava matchups where you don't have the right responses, although this one does have the hunter, so lava really wouldn't be that big of a problem. I don't particularly love it, but it does, when it works against the deck, it really does work.
Wow, what a log from Nikoko here. Getting that huge cannon card connection. Vitor has no elixir. He's going to double down on that with some wall breakers. Barbell comes out and will take care of that. But really nice damage lead from Nikoko. I would have never expected him to just go super aggressive with that cannon card at the bridge, but it worked out quite nicely.
Oh, and so right there, Nikoko, this is one of those plays that I see all too often, even with pros to this day. He goes in with the wall breakers behind the cannon cart. And so had he chosen to not go in with the wall breakers, or even just go in with the wall breakers opposite lane, that cannon cart would have got 1 or 2 more shots. But because he goes same lane, it gives Vitor an out, and he can bar barrel the wall breakers alongside taking out the cannon cart. So that's one play right there that, you know, I just want everybody to be watching to make sure that they're not doing. When you still have those cards that are still alive, you don't need to always continue the pressure. You can come in with that reset.
That's a really good point. Yeah, if he went wall breakers opposite lane, then he would have gotten himself in a situation where Vitor wouldn't have been able to spend that extra elixir to counter the basically counter both.
Okay. So right there, he finally has the elixir to be able to stop an offensive attack, but with 5 elixir right there, he does need to yank it away, and he does that. The skeletons needed to be placed first. That's not what happens, and that RG is on the tower, and again, the fisherman yanks before it gets the shot off. A brilliant offensive assault from Vitor right there.
Yeah, and that's the other thing about this deck at the top is it doesn't have a big spell. It doesn't really have a consistent way of getting damage. So if Vitor defends perfectly the rest of the game, I think there's definitely a huge chance that he could win. He does get that giant Skelly in the middle here, just making sure to prevent any princesses of the bridge. Goblin Barrel does come down. Does he have something? He does have the bar barrel. And here comes a giant Skelly RG push. E-Spirit gonna stun absolutely everything and take out those skeletons. And RG will get the hits. Yes,
does get 1 shot, and he gets the second. Wow. This game is going to be over if he doesn't get the lightning block. Goblin Barrel to attempt to get it. Not going to happen. Princess at the bridge, and Vitor with a brilliant job of not being too aggressive. Waits till the wrong cards are in cycle. Right there, 54 HP. I'm going to test your game knowledge. Would the skeletons have stopped that lightning?
I think so. You tell me.
I was testing your game knowledge. I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna say yes. Final answer. Okay. Thank you, Andrew. They have 81 HP. So yes was correct.
Okay, and now we're seeing a bait from Vitor this time, and we're going against Is this Lava Clone from Nikoko?
Wow. Okay, so actually, I was looking at some of his earlier matchups. He has ran Lava Loon, but it wasn't with Valk Miner. So at this point, I can't give you a great answer. What I can say is that was a great attempt at a log to keep the Miner off the Dark Goblin, but it's not even going to matter. He defends this masterfully, and left tower completely down. Right towers are fairly similar in HP. It just depends on what he can do to damage this balloon.
He gets the Dark God back in cycle. Arrows come out real quick, but that's not going to be enough to take the tower. And yeah, this is a great example of just the power of the Mighty Miner. Going against Lava Hound, where it seems like Nikoko doesn't have a great response to it. Able to just take so much damage on both towers right at the start of this game. And we're not even in double elixir yet.
Yeah, a huge... I mean, we can call it a mistake because it was because of the matchup, but Lava first play, it does bite him in the butt, and right there, just both towers already gone, and again with aggressive Lava push. I don't know if I fully agree with this. I think he's shown that he has been able to defend them with getting a lot of pressure. It's just a Lava Hound, no support behind it.
We'll see if a Miner is going to come through. I don't know if it's in cycle. The Dark Gob does come down. Here comes the Miner. Taking out that Dark Gob. He does protect it with the skeletons. A balloon's going to come down now. But Vitor just needs enough elixir for this cannon. He does get it. And the Dark Gob's alive and well. And that balloon's going to be going down. And the Mighty Miner and the Dark Gob are kind of pushing Goblin Barrel as well. Arrows are forced out on defense. And you know what that means? Offense is going to be almost impossible because he's not going to have those arrows to help clean up the Dark Gobs on the other end.
Yeah, you know it's Vitor's game. The Dark Goblin takes out the balloon just in time and is able to walk away from the death damage with 800 left on the tower. Misses a fireball. This game is all but over. 34 seconds left. Brilliant push. And again, just another mistake from Nikoko. Another brilliant play from Vitor. Getting the tower down to 196 because of another Trickster Barrel. Just complete outplays time and time again. This is a perfect match and a perfect set from Vitor.
Yeah, I'm actually insanely surprised by not only Vitor's just absolutely perfect play, but also Nikoko's deck choice and kind of a lot of mistakes coming through right now.
Yeah, this definitely can get chalked up to inexperience and being way too aggressive because of it. Because, I mean, we see it right there. Vitor was just able to start the game. I mean, he started off aggressive, but when you're running a deck where you can cycle the first 5 cards with only 12 elixir, you're allowed to do that. You don't get that opportunity when the first 2 cards out of your hand cost 11 elixir.
Yeah, absolutely. Vitor just taking everything, every single mistake, and just punishing at the perfect moments. Gonna take that first win there. 2-0 as well. I mean, I said it. I think Vitor did a really good job. He used some quicker cycle decks at the start. He did use that RG, which kind of surprised me. Giant Skelly RG is definitely a really, really solid deck. But yeah, I don't know. I just thought I thought Nikoko would also be able to like do something, and it just didn't seem like he was able to really make anything happen in that match at all.
Yeah, definitely a disappointing performance right there from Nikoko. I think in those 2 matches, as far as sticking out for me, the Mighty Miner definitely stuck out for me. I mean, I know it's so strong. I know you can switch it into graveyard decks, bait decks. I've messed around with a, what was it? It was like a Mother Witch Pump Mighty Miner deck. So just Mighty Miner has shown a lot of brilliance throughout this day and throughout these competitions.
Yeah, it just applies so much pressure. So good on defense. Out of all of the champions, it has the most health. So it's actually really fascinating. Just the defensive capabilities and that counter push value, because even if it has a little bit of damage or a little bit of health left, it's always a threat.
And so right here we are in game 2. Humble Keith was able to take game number 1. Game number 2, Surgical is going to be running Royal Hogs Quick Cycle, defending the bandit right there. And then on the other end, Keith is going to be running MK P.E.K.K.A. Ram Rider. A lot of responses to the Royal Hogs, but with these Royal Hogs decks, it doesn't matter if you have 3 responses, you're going to need a 4th sometimes just because of how fast it works.
Absolutely. Royal Hogs just one of those cards always getting some nice connections, even with like a Mega Knight or anything like that. And another Pigs from Surge. I really like what he's doing here. He needs damage. He needs damage. His defense is perfect, but he does need that damage. Mini P.E.K.K.A, E-Spirit, and Snowball does clean it up nicely, but the Royal Hogs are always chipping away. What does Keith have to do here if he actually wants to win this game?
It's going to depend on this push right here. Archer Queen will be placed up high, 396. I don't think that the Lightning Snowball will do enough. It
Not
just
quite.
depends.
Archer Queen.
He's just going to try to cycle to another Lightning, but it's not going to matter. The Archer Queen gets the final shot. Surgical again. It's as soon as he gets on camera, that man just wants to shine. He wants everybody's attention on him, and it's going to happen because he keeps winning in magical ways.
I can't believe you won that match. For Mega Knight for the Pigs, Lightning for the Archer Queen. I mean, those are the main 2 cards in the deck. Keith had the answers, but Surge, really nice defense, allowing his opponent to split up his damage, attack both sides, using his towers as a resource. And then I think Keith, I'm not sure why he went for that Lightning. I feel like he needed to just have one more good defense and maybe cycle like a Snowball first on top of that tower and then go for the Lightning plus a second Snowball to finish it off. Maybe he just doesn't know his spell damage though.
Yeah, certainly a couple of questions right there. And here it is. Andrew was asking for it. Andrew will get it. It's going to be a double Giant Skeleton deck. Both players... Okay, so Surgical is going to be likely going in with the RG Giant Skeleton Hunter. And then Keith on the opposite end. It does look like it. That it should be that Mirror Mother Witch Royal Hogs deck.
Yeah, I know you love that deck. I hate it though.
Again, it's so fun when you're playing games very casually and you don't have the stress behind you, especially, you know, 800 viewers talking about your every move.
Absolutely. Yeah. Really nice King Tower activation from Surge here. I think that will actually be really useful against the Royal Hogs and the Mirror Royal Hogs. Just make it so maybe the Royal Hogs will get a little bit less chip, and every little bit of damage matters a lot, as you know. I think that matchup-wise, I think Keith does have a solid matchup, though. The King Tower will help a bit, but having those zappies are just so useful against any sort of lightning deck, and I would have to assume that Surge's last card could be lightning. I guess it could be Earthquake or Fireball. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I want to guess lightning. But I certainly could be wrong. I do know that this is going to be a somewhat difficult situation for him. Doesn't have the red elixir. Fisherman is going to yank the giant skeleton though, so that's not going to get to the tower. And it's actually going to walk, so that's actually pretty advantageous for him. It could have been a lot worse, but as I say that, tower gets down to 775. So definitely a rough spot. And you have to wonder, what are your thoughts on that aggressive RG? He had nothing behind it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I just feel like that wasn't the play. Keef's deck is all about like defense and counter push, and when you just go with the RG without any support like that, it definitely makes it very easy to do that. And now the Zappies plus Fisherman combo is coming down on the defense. And this is what I'm talking about. Wow, the Esports actually stuns the Fisherman at the perfect moment. And the RG is getting quite a bit of damage. Let's see if he can counter push for anything right now.
So Giant Skeleton plus the Hunter plus the Bar Barrel will be able to stop it in its tracks for the most part. Tower down to 196, will be able to get the mirrored arrows if he wants to, but it looks like he's going to elect to defend. And that's a rough position because the Giant Skeleton is going to tank for the RG. It's not going to get yanked away. Now it's clear that he is going to have the lightning. Will he be able to get the last shot? Not going to happen. This is coming down to the end.
But notice he did use the mirror. He used the mirror on the ghost there. If Surge can find a way. Oh! What?
The left side, it had 2 Royal Ghosts on the tower chipping away. 1100 HP. And Surgical alongside Juicy just wasn't watching. He didn't see him.
I do not know what just happened. Maybe Surge just did not have the elixir to defend both sides, as was probably the case. Probably just coming back to that one play, that one RG at the bridge, really aggressive in single elixir, and Keef just playing really well, able to punish that play. And Surge was basically trying to play catch up for the rest of the game there, and I think that's what happened.
Okay, so it sounds like we are going to be going to Air Surfer and Morton. Hopefully, we get another nail biter right there, but also hopefully we're able to watch the towers go down, because I'll be honest, I called you out. I wasn't watching as well. I didn't see the left tower go down in its entirety.
So SK Morton, looks like we might see like some Golem debut today. Kind of looks like a Golem deck, and the Air Server using this very nice minor mortar control. Not sure about this matchup. I think it's really going to come down to how well Air Server can play. That's what like beatdown decks really come down to a lot of the time. If Air Server can find a way to just play perfect and, you know, basically just prevent that damage and apply pressure at the right times, he should win. But one mistake is all it's going to take against a big Golem Skelly King push.
So, another little quiz that I can throw out for you. There has been one player to use Golem, okay, that I know of, so far today. Can you guess which player used it?
I want to say maybe Sweep? I don't know.
Ah, there you go. It was Sweep, yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, Sweep did use a no big spell variation, and actually had a very rough matchup for him. Ended up going against a lava deck that had a lot of answers to it. So hopefully this Golem deck can have a little bit more success. Air Surfer on top, having a lot of success getting the right tower down to just about 1074. I don't think that mortar is going to get a final shot, but the mortar always seems to get it. So right here, this is a nasty push. Air Surfer defending it fairly well, though.
Wow, that miner coming out is so important. Skeleton King not able to take out the Musketeer. Now the Musketeer's going to be spinning 360 degrees, taking everything out. And another mortar comes down. Golem does defend it, but look at this left side pressure.
Yeah, that is a brilliant play from Air Surfer. Left side is not going to go down because Morton is going to be forced to defend it again and again. The Musketeer did lock onto the Night Witch itself, so that is going to be a mortar lock once again. And then the Skeleton King not able to defend from the miner. The poison plus the miner plus the mortar shot plus the snowball. Not going to be fully taken out, but he's just going to have to cycle to another poison. Perfectly played from Air Surfer in this game.
Yeah, it was actually a really fascinating match. I think Air Surfer just did what I said. Like, he played well. He made sure to pressure at the right times, and he made sure to have very solid defense. and that's what it took to win against Morton with that golden deck.
Yeah, and I think right there, it's not the most flashy, and it's always weird highlighting those kind of plays. But that miner that you talked about, that was so intelligent, plays it just above where the NATO doesn't pull both of the troops in. Just a really great, really intelligent position of the miner. And I mean, and then actually following it right after going in with a Valk in front. I mean, that was two great back-to-back plays.
Yeah, I think that was super important. Like, dual lane pressure made it so that Morton was not able to deal with both sides. He knew that he needed to prevent that mortar from locking in the right, but he also knows how lucrative a musketeer on the tower could be. And with that Valkyrie tanking so much health, he had to defend, and mortar ended up just locking on that right-hand side and finishing out that game in style.
Yeah, just a brilliant overall set right there. It sounds like Andrew's going to be back on camera. Andrew, were there any matches that you saw? Any thoughts, any inputs?
I'm just going to tell you right now, if you quiz me as much as you quiz Juicy J, we're going to have a problem, all right? You and me, we're going to have some fighting times in Helsinki, my friend.
I got the last one right.
Yeah, dude, I guess sweep too. I guess I wanted to like say something. I'm like, it's not your time, Andrew. It's not your time. No, great matches, guys. I'm glad that we got to see all those. I mean, there was so much to talk about, from the Mighty Miner to the attempted Goblin Barrel lightning block. I love that play, even though it didn't work out. And then what we saw in that final game, brilliant mortar play, which always makes me happy. I mean, it's been an exciting day. It's been exciting for us, but then people like Hugo, Yuya, and trainer Toby have yet to find a win today. Already moving on to round number 3. All three of those competitors are 0-2, and that's where things start to get a little bit spicy. That's when you start to really get those nerves kind of creeping up, wondering, are you going to get eliminated? Is that World Finals going to be out of your grasp this year? So those 3 competitors, Yuya, Hugo, and trainer Toby, all lives on the line. And then on the other side of it, we have a lot of guys that have played really, really well today. I'm excited to just keep moving on through. We're about to get into round number 3, and it's been a lot of fun to follow along with this tournament hub. There's 2 matches. There's 2 people that are 2-0 right now. It's Vitor and Humble Keith. That's one matchup, and the other one is Pandora and Air Surfer. I feel like we got to watch Pandora and Air Surfer. We caught a little bit of Air Surfer action right there. That feels like the way that we got to go. Those are our 2 undefeated players. I think we're saying goodbye to you, Juicy, so I'm going to start with you. Pandora versus Air Surfer. Who do you got?
Honestly, I'm going to go with Air Surfer. I think he's just got the experience. He's got the deck picks, and he's got the gameplay to back him. And yeah, I think he will take that win. We'll see, though.
Okay. AC, how you feeling?
Well, I'm going to go with first who... Okay, yes. Actually, I'll just answer this. I'll answer this straight up. I'm going to say Air Surfer. You know, the talent has always been there. Raw ability, deck selection, who he works with behind the scenes, how much effort he's willing to put in. You know, he won't play Rocket League with me for the 11 days before a competition because he just wants to grind. And the other thing is, he said to me recently, see you in Helsinki. So, you know, he's got confidence, he's got swagger behind him. I have to say Air Surfer.
Okay. I was like, is he going to say see you in hell? I was like, wow, Air Surfer, that's gonna be intense, man. Okay, I'm with you guys. I'm with Air Surfer. I want to see it, even though it means AC can't play Rocket League. That'll be okay. Life will go on. Now I'm going to go to the very opposite side of this leaderboard. Trainer Toby versus Hugo. Both 0-2. Life's on the line. One of them moves on. One of them goes home. I'll start this one. You know, Hugo's a guy that I wanted to be here in this competition of 16. He was able to make it through today. I'm a fan of him. I saw him play Mortar. I saw him lose with it. He's someone that plays Mortar almost a little bit too much. I know that's really hard for me to say. I'm going to go with him, though. I do love his play style. I don't know Trainer Toby as well, but this is really just favoritism on my side of it. I want Hugo to keep playing. AC, we'll go to start with you. Hugo versus Toby. Any thoughts, any insight, any, you know, who you picking?
So, I think this is... I think I'm going to have to lean towards Hugo, and my reasoning for that is because last week's stage, Hugo started out 0-2, and then he ended up just having a good run, and that's really all you can ask for. You know, regardless of matchups, regardless of, you know, technically how you played, if you won, that is quality. That's all I need to see from someone, and he didn't go 0-2 to 0-3. He was able to get to the position that he is today. And that's what I'm looking for. That's what for a player to be in this position, you know, he's one of those players that I think can actually work his way out of it.
Yeah, and you guys both know how hard it is to play through that mental wall that you run into when you are down in a set or down in a match. Juicy, going to you, how you feeling between these two guys, between Toby and Hugo?
You know, it's tough. I was talking to Carl the Legend this morning, and Toby is a German player. We were talking a bit about who might be able to qualify from today, and I actually might go with him. I might go for a kind of an underdog pick here. I was pleasantly surprised at watching his matches last week, and I think that he might be able to pull a fast one and take a W versus Hugo here.
All right, so AC and I going to Hugo, Juicy going with Toby. Remember, guys, we are talking through some of our matchups right now before we hop into round number 3. You can follow along with everything that we're talking about. And actually, we're going to say goodbye to Juicy right now. Juicy, great casting with you, buddy. We'll see you in just 1 minute. AC, we're going to go into Pandora versus Air Surfer. We talked about it a little bit, so I'm going to talk about this last matchup that we have. Yuya versus Hubie. That is the final 0-2. That's the last one of two guys that kind of have their lives on the line. I feel like Yuya is probably the favorite in that set. Any thoughts before we hop into this match?
Yeah, I mean, both of those players, if you told me that they were going to start off 0-2, I would have said no way. Yeah. I think both of them are way too talented to be in this position. Yuya, I love watching his gameplay, but there have been a few things that I've seen out of him that I haven't particularly really appreciated from him. Sometimes, you know, whether it's Dex or whether it's just like one simple mistake. So that's something that I really want to watch out for, make sure that he's not doing that. And then I really do think he can make a run. I think he is one of those players like Hugo that can start off poorly and still have that run. On the other side, Hubie, aka Faust, he has always been one of the most talented players out there. I mean, it really is shocking to see him down here as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where, you know, you have to learn how to play through moments like this, and that's why I kind of like this format. I love that it's 3 losses because, you know, 2 feels maybe a little bit. I mean, we see double elimination all the time. I definitely think it's super fair. I think single elimination, which is what we're going to see tomorrow, is obviously the hardest. But when you have 3 opportunities, that's when there's no way that you could chalk it up to anything other than your gameplay and your deck choices. You know what I mean? Like, when you have that many opportunities, when you're playing against other people with the exact same record, that's when, you know, if you lose 3, especially 3 in a row, it's probably when you got to say goodbye to CRL. I mean, this is where it comes down to $1 million on the line. Only 16 people get to go, and only 10 from this group of 16. And we're going to figure out who all those people are, you know, tomorrow morning, which is crazy. I mean, this time tomorrow, and maybe in a couple hours from now tomorrow, we'll have our 16 world finalists. AC, Pandora versus, excuse me, Air Surfer. This is something that we talked about for just a minute. You know, we all think that Air Surfer is going to do well here, but Pandora has been showing up a lot, and Air Surfer's a guy that, you know, as much as I love him, and I hope he doesn't hate me for this, we keep seeing him fall short at some of the most important moments. Now, obviously, there's the whole joke about kind of him in line, that running narrative. But also, when you take line out of the equation, you know, Air Surfer has struggled to kind of get to that top tier. Is 2022 maybe his year after he's been dialed in for so long? Maybe the maturity comes through. Is this the best Air Surfer we've ever seen? Or do you think it's one of the better versions that it kind of matches the ones we've seen in the past?
You know, I was kind of joking about it when I talked about, you know, the confidence and swagger with him, but it really does feel like there's a different air to him. When I talk to him, when we discuss matchups, when we discuss just anything in general, when, you know, when I talk to him, it really does feel like he believes in himself. And before it's like, oh yeah, you know, I'm better than other people, I can win this. And now it's, you know, see you in Helsinki. Yeah. And I really do think that mindset has played into the fact where I really do believe that he's going to qualify and he is going to make a run at the World Finals crown. It does feel like there's something way different to him this season.
Well, I would love to see Air Surfer in Helsinki. Pandora has something to say about that. And yeah, when you talk about that confidence, it's true. Air Surfer is a guy that has always had the skill. It's never been a question since day one back in our very first season. We always knew Air Surfer had the skill. But as you know, as we know, you need the luck. You need to have the confidence. Here we go. Pandora versus Air Surfer. We are in round 3. Both of them undefeated on the day. Pandora top of your screen. Air Surfer at the bottom. And Morhog EQ, different version of it here. Pandora was able to 2-0 Ender and 2-0 Sweep. While you look at Air Surfer's run today, Air Surfer was able to 2-1 Hugo in round 1, and then we just saw that 2-1 over Morton in round number 2.
Valk on top of the Goblin Drill, not going to be able to walk away from the tower in time. Bomber is going to get a bomb shot off. And again, we are going to see the Valk Hog. Valk will be able to take the aggro of the Inferno Tower. Ice Spirit in following it. But I was wondering about the Ice Spirit right there. It felt like I knew that he had Fire Spirit in hand, so it really wasn't going to get the value he needed. But that's okay. It just walks across the bridge, and it's not going to matter.
So Drill comes down. Valkyrie gets stopped with those last-second Skellies. Nice placement there, but Goblin's still on the tower, down to 1836. And Air Surfer already finding himself in a hole early on here in game number 1. AC, with this matchup, going down early is definitely not where you want to be. Is there a way for Air Surfer to crawl out of this hole, or does he need Pandora to make a big mistake?
Yeah, this is going to be really tough. I like the bomb tower right there. You know, you just need kind of a defense to go right. And right there,
wow.
Speaking of defenses going right, defense goes wrong. But it's going to be extremely difficult. I like that he's switching this up. He's not trying to go with Valk Hog Rider. He's now going in with Valk Archer Queen. And I think that's definitely, you know, one of those differences that we're seeing nowadays than, you know, previous years. It would have been, you know, continue the same path that hasn't worked. And now it's, okay, one thing isn't working for me. How do I switch this up? How do I attempt something different that has a shot of actually working this time?
Yeah, a little innovation on the side of Air Surfer's offense with that Archer Queen on the last push. Now goes back to Hog Rider, knowing he needs to get some damage on tower with only 100 seconds remaining here in overtime. 1848 to 1434. And those guards are going to put in great work against that Archer Queen every single time. There's really nowhere else that Pandora has to use those guards.
And right there, Archer Queen does get the final shot off. We are going to see the Inferno Tower come down. And I thought for a split second that the Hog was going to make its way to the tower. Only 200 HP separate in the two players. But this is the difference in the game now. Before, the Archer Queen was not utilized properly, whether it be because of double elixir or just a mistake in general. Right here, he is now using the Archer Queen beautifully.
I could not agree with you more. I love what Air Surfer's doing. You can see it. You can literally watch the trajectory of the game, and you can see that Pandora is playing more uncomfortably. You see wall breakers coming out defensively. You see drills coming out defensively. You see this kind of lack of offense coming in, and Air Surfer getting more confident with his Earthquake cycles. So bomb tower in. A fireball is going to come down on top. Right there, Air Surfer ready to go, locked and loaded with the Valkyrie and the Skellies to worry about that pushback, and he is making a case for himself right now.
We do see the Earthquake cycle, not going to go in with the Hog. We are going to see, again, another Fireball. Will the Fireball get the value it needs to? The Skeletons do protect the tower just in time, 801 to 763. Tower damage from the log will put Air Surfer back in the lead.
Second Valkyrie comes down, Hog Rider behind. There's no way an Inferno is in, so a drill has to come down. Great timing there on the log. Guards are in as well. Pandora is spending an arm and a leg. Now a naked Fireball comes in. Air Surfer looks like he's going to be able to turn this one around, and just as quickly as I asked you how he's going to do it, AC, he started changing up his offense. That was an incredible final minute and a half from the American.
Yeah, I mean, it is so cool to see just what level both of these players are on. I mean, Pandora didn't make any mistakes. There was never an Inferno Tower that was misplaced. When he didn't have the Inferno Tower, he plays the drill, so he never overextended with his offensive attacks. And it just comes down to who makes the most adjustments, who makes the better adjustment. And right there, it's as plain as day. Archer Queen Bridge is how you win that matchup.
Yeah, great stuff there. Great adjustment. Looks like Pandora is playing for the first time today. Going to go to Hog Rider as I look at his battle log here. Been leaning on a bunch of other archetypes. He's been varying it up quite a bit. We see some MK Royal Hogs mirror, so it's basically that kind of Royal Hogs mirror Mother Witch deck, but he has MK and P.E.K.K.A. in there, so interesting. He's played some Royal Giants, some Lava, some Bait. He's been all over the board, and right now he's going to go to Hog Rider with Bomb Tower and Snowball. Air Surfer, bottom of your screen, we know what this is.
I wasn't like fully paying attention to the bottom side. I was just looking at the damage, so that certainly made me chuckle right there. Earthquake on top of one of the Zappies, already deciding to go to the right tower, not even going to worry about the left tower damage. And that's what you can do with these kind of hog decks. You're not really worried about that split lane pressure. You're just trying to go all in into one lane, and just how aggressive can you get without overextending too much.
So Giant Skeleton's going to meet on Pandora's side. No, right here at the river. So no Princess Towers helping out on damage. A little bit of a stop and stare here. We're going to see one Hoggy come up, but Musketeer will be more than enough to deal with it. 23-66 to 25-72.
Fisherman will be able to yank properly. Ghost will not stay alive, but right there, Fisherman able to yank properly once again, understanding its requirements as a card. And a great situation for Air Surfer, but Pandora not far behind. Just 50 HP separating the two players.
Yeah, I mean, is there a moment here in this matchup, AC, where you start to see it lean towards Air Surfer's favor just because that deck is so much heavier? Or is it the cycle of Pandora's deck going to be able to keep up with it because of that Giant Skeleton to kind of reset?
Yeah, I mean, if we see one mistake with one of these bomb towers and then he can get free reign, it's obviously going to go heavily for Air Surfer right here. That, you know, you could chalk that up as almost a mistake, but because of how quick he cycles, because of the snowball, plus the Skellies, plus the Ice Spirit, it really doesn't matter. Pandora able to get a ton of damage. Musketeer on this, on the bridge, not even going to cross. Yeah. And Air Surfer is just in a world of hurt right now. And
that's two Hog Riders in a row that have gotten a hit, all the way down to 1294, a game that was just basically even, now an arm's length away. 1294 to 2366. I'd say an arm's length and a half, actually.
Yeah. Right there, I again, you know, you have to give credit to Air Surfer electing to go in with the Giant Skeleton, or using the mirror for the Giant Skeleton, not trying to use it for a different card, just trying to switch it up. He's not going to be able to win if he keeps playing the same way. But, I mean, Pandora's just playing this too well. We see, again, a beautiful Skeleton's placement going to stop the Ghost from even getting to the tower.
And we're going to see another Piggy come down, but Giant Skeleton not taking for it yet. Snowball comes in. Giant Skeleton will not make it to tower. Mother Witch, though, is finally there to give Air Surfer a little bit of help. 1914 to 1132. 80 seconds remain.
Fisherman able to yank the Musketeer. Mother Witch not going to get the value he needs, but the Fisherman will allow for the Crown Tower to help. Now the question is, does he want to use the Skellies?
Nice arrows.
And he does a brilliant arrows right there from Air Surfer. Only going to get 2 shots from the Ghost because of the bomb tower plus the snowball. So, I mean, Pandora not panicking. And right there, Air Surfer's making the right plays, but Pandora is doing the same.
Yeah, he's just so far ahead that little bit of hit from that Royal Ghost is just not going to make much of a difference. 970 now to 1914. Air Surfer has split a very little bit of damage, while Pandora has focused solely on one tower for the entirety of this 4.5 minutes. Is there any way for Air Surfer to turn this around? No. Skellies distract the Fisherman. Giant Skelly on the left tower. Earthquake on the right. Air Surfer not going to be able to pick up this full-on sweep. We're going to game number 3 unless some miracle happens in this final 15.
Yeah, a miracle certainly was attempted. Not going to happen, though. The snowball will come out, be able to take out the remainder of the tower. I mean, a great attempt, a last-ditch effort right there. But Pandora wasn't worried. He was able to get the bomb tower in time. And actually, it was only due to kind of an unlucky interaction. I'm pretty sure that the bomb expired like 0.02 seconds too late, and it made him misclick his bomb tower, put it all the way into the right lane. Just kind of a funny interaction because it didn't hurt him. It could have been a lot more serious.
Here we go. Game number 3. Whoever wins this is going to World Finals. That's right. That quickly we have the first person to qualify, and it looks like we're going to do it in the skies. Will it be Pandora? Will it be Air Surfer, Japan, or the U.S.? Here we go. We have our 7th World Finalist in just about 4.5 minutes.
Pandora will elect to use the Mighty Miner version. I'm not sure if the Tombstone version will also use it. And there we go. We do see it. Whenever you have the opportunity to use it, you should be using it. And I agree with both of these players. Mighty Miner used from both.
Humble Keith has qualified for World Finals after a 2-0 victory over Vitor, and Yuya has been eliminated on the day. Just a quick update for you guys who aren't following along in your tournament hub. Some big stuff there. We have our 7th competitor going to Helsinki in Humble Keith. Let's see if it can be Pandora Air Surfer next. Minute 45 remains in regulation.
Both players at 10 elixir. Both players leaking with 135. They both have their lava set up. It's just whether or not you want to go into it. Pandora electing to go the defensive route. Air Surfer electing to go the aggressive route.
Yeah, lava in the back in the right-hand lane towards the weaker tower. 28-91 on opposite corners here as Skeleton Dragons come down to defend.
And so this matchup is certainly going to be, how do you use your Inferno Dragon? How do you use your flying machines? And right there, Pandora is going to be using a mirror version. The Fireball will come out, able to take out the mirrored Skeleton Dragons, but now it's going to allow for the flying machine to go free reign on top of all the pups, but the Inferno Dragon will just single-handedly almost take out the flying machine.
Yeah, that is not the greatest use of the flying machine there. You can see Air Surfer up by a little bit of elixir with those Skeleton Dragons on the board, so he opts to stay aggressive. I like it, controlling the pace here of the game. We get that miner to pull those Skeleton Dragons away. Nice interaction there by Pandora as he turns up the pressure on the left-hand lane with that Mighty Miner at the bridge. Now Flying Machine comes down defensively. Should be a Fireball. There's the Fireball from Air Surfer. Great arrows.
Yeah, and he's not going to go in with the double arrows. The zap will allow for the Inferno Dragon to get a lot of damage onto the tower. 564. Now the question is, what is Air Surfer's last card? It has to be the Loon at this point, you would think. And right there, the cage is actually not going to pull.
Oh my goodness, that is a huge mistake in a World Finals match here. Fireball going to come in. That should be enough with the pups. No, there it is. Arrows come down just in time, but now Air Surfer, all he needs to do, one more cycle around to get to World Finals.
Complete domination throughout this match. We see the Mighty Miner cycle to the left side just in case he wanted to make an all-out rush on the left side because of the tombstones. Not going to happen. Just one card away. Now, and the Fireball comes down.
AC, how does it feel? Your boy, he's going to do it. He said, see you in Helsinki. He meant it. Air Surfer will be there.
You know, he made me stress out. He won all his matches 2-1. Just to make his fans worry for him. But I should have known. I should have known he was going to be able to pull it off.
Yeah, incredible stuff there. Always happy to see Jack move on. So Air Surfer and Humble Keith, our next 2 competitors that we can guarantee to be seen at World Finals. And you know the other 6 are sitting watching closely here today to see who they're going to have to play against. We got 2 more decided and, of course, 2 more eliminated. We got Trainer Toby and Hugo battling for their lives after we saw Yuya get eliminated. And we'll see now who was the other player eliminated. Well, it was Hugo. Saying goodbye for 2022. Maybe we'll see him back in 2023. We got a couple guys qualified, a couple guys eliminated. It's exciting stuff as we move halfway roughly through our day. AC, Lava Hound, we've seen it a lot. Thoughts on what we just saw in that game number 3?
I mean, it certainly feels like the version with Tombstone is the stronger one. I'm not sure how I feel about just using a lava deck with mirror in it. I feel like that does limit your opportunities with mirror in other decks. So even if he thought that that was the best choice in that scenario, I just don't like having that in your pool at all.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Lava's never been one of my favorite archetypes, and obviously a quick correction there. Hugo not eliminated until 2023. He does have tomorrow. Everyone that is eliminated today will be back tomorrow. 2 people will qualify tomorrow. Let's bring back Juicy J. Juicy, we got a couple people eliminated for the day. We got a couple people moving on. Anything that you want to talk about? The match that we just saw, the people that have made it through, people that have said goodbye for the day. What's up, man?
Yeah, you guys talked a lot about the eliminations and the people that made it through. Just want to go over the matches that were at 1 win and 1 loss. We got Doom actually taking kind of a surprising win over Surgical Goblin. Surgical Goblin is going to be an elimination spot now at 2 losses. We got Morton, no surprise, taking the W against Nikoku. And then we got Sandbox actually beat Sweep 2-0. That's going to be putting him in a qualification spot, whereas Sweep will be in that elimination area. And then KK also taking that W versus Ender. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So I'm looking here, and I see that we got Surgical versus Sweep in an elimination matchup. They're both 1 and 2. I think that is going to be a very, very good one for us to watch on broadcast. Surgical Goblin versus Sweep. I mean, we have a guy in Sweep that I think surprised a lot of us this year, especially in these final last couple weeks. Not that he didn't have the skill to do it. I mean, there's a reason why we've talked about him for years, but I think the fact that he was able to kind of put it all together, he's been a lot quieter than the others in terms of the competitive scene. And of course, Surgical Goblin, the old GOAT, if you will, maybe Mohammed Light, the new GOAT. This matchup, very curious. I'm going to let either of you guys sound off. Whoever wants to go first. First of all, surprising to see both of them move this far along. Juicy J, what are you thinking about their specific matchup?
Honestly, I think it's going to be a fascinating matchup. I think that Sweep is fairly competent, or competent and confident. I was talking to him, and he was saying that Sandbox and Morton, I believe, were the only people you're really scared of. I think that, like, with his confidence in his deck picks and his gameplay, I think that he's feeling like he can win this.
All right, so Sweep calling out Surgical there, even if it's just kind of, second-handedly. AC, how are you feeling about that? What do you think? Sweep, Surge, who you got?
Yeah, it feels weird to root against Surgical, well, in terms of who I believe will win. Never going to root against Surgical. I have his jersey. I actually just washed it this morning, so, never want to root against Surgical.
You had time to do laundry this morning? It's 3 in the morning, man.
Well, I did it at 1 a.m., so I'm considering that morning.
Okay, all right.
And so I do believe that Sweep does have the advantage. I think he's way too talented. He's too skilled when it comes to deck choices. Ever since Juicy mentioned that he's willing to snipe, I've been looking at his battle logs throughout these stages, and I've just been impressed. He's willing to try out things that other people aren't. I was looking through his stage 1, and he lost with the Golem deck, and I thought that was kind of a mistake, but if you're willing to use Golem, if you're willing to use these creative decks, it's always going to put you as a front runner to be able to qualify entirely. And then Surgical, too much time off, even the GOAT can't make a comeback sometimes. I don't know if that's the case this time, but I do have to give Sweep the advantage.
It's such a fascinating thing that sniping has such a negative connotation carried with it. I understand on ladder, right? On ladder, it feels a little, slimy, whatever you want to call it. But also, I still think even at top ladder and in competition, like, that's kind of your job, right? Like, top ladder is a little weirder because, there's so many other people that can, there's probably like 5 other people that are requesting games at the same time. But when you're talking about competitive, that is what you're supposed to do, right? And I think both of you guys have now leaned on the fact that you think Sweep's deck choice is better than Surgical's and that he's been maybe a little bit more active over the last couple of years. I'm not shocked, but I am a little surprised to see both of you guys being so strongly in favor of Sweep. Is there something that you've seen from Surgical Goblin that you don't like, or is it just more so you've seen greatness from Sweep?
I would say, like, that last match that we just watched, I think he didn't play perfectly. The other thing is Sweep's just been putting in the hours every single day, and yeah, I think that's just what's going to make the difference. I think Surge does have that talent. He does have that maybe luck, for lack of a better term, but I think Sweep, I would not be surprised to see Sweep win this.
Okay, all right. AC, I'm pretty sure you're going to take a break here for a little bit. I think it's going to be Juicy and I holding down the fort for this matchup between Sweep and Surgical. But before we say goodbye to you, since we do have just a little bit more time as they get their matches ready, a couple other ones we have in the 1-2 Ender G versus Trainer Toby and Nikoko versus Koffer QB. But in the 2-1, guys that can qualify here, Pandora versus Doom. Feels like Pandora's probably the favorite there. Went the distance against Air Surfer. I didn't see a lot of glaring mistakes in that set. It just felt like Air Surfer played a little bit better.
Yeah, Pandora's, you were listing off his record, and it went 2-0, 2-0, and, like, my heart stopped. I was like, oh, man, can Air Surfer even, stop someone when they're on fire like that? I didn't see too many mistakes. I saw a lot of just great plays from them both, and I think Pandora is probably a top 3 competitor this weekend from what I've seen. So I would be shocked if he needs a round number 5.
Yeah, and I will be very curious to see out of those 6 people right now who, if any of them, will not qualify. We'll see who is able to come up from that 1-2 situation. Going over to you, Juicy J, Morton versus Vitor. That's a really good one there. Both 2-1. I feel like you might say Morton. Does that feel right? I know he's a guy that you feel like could maybe have a shot at even winning World Finals. Okay, no, we're getting a goodbye to AC. AC, we'll see you in just a minute. Juicy and I will pick up this conversation, or at least close up this conversation. Am I correct in assuming that you're going with Morton against Vitor?
Yeah, I do think this is one that could go either way. I mean, I do, you know, I got to stick with what I've been saying. I think Morton could definitely take this dub. But let's hop in this game. Sweep with the giant Skelly clone. There's no way. This is what I'm talking about. Sweep is just on, he's just on another level with these deck picks, man.
Giant Skelly clone with Flying Machine and Furnace. All right, let's go, man. You love to see it. Sweep bottom of your screen, Surge at the top, both 1 and 2. This is an elimination game. Whoever wins will move on to the next round. Whoever loses will show up tomorrow for our LCQ. Last chance, final 2 spots, $1 million prize. Let's go with this weird deck from Sweep.
Yeah, interesting deck pick, obviously. I don't think he's hitting the snipe that he was trying to get. A lot of time when you're using a deck like this, you're trying to go against like a lightning deck or something that doesn't have a lot of splash answers. But Surge does have that fireball for the Flying Machine and like for the clone stuff. Surge has the Firecracker, which is huge.
What is
Surge
happening
maybe with
right
a
now?
counter snipe right now. Honestly, this is crazy.
Yeah, Surge looking for the giant Skelly barrel clone Furnace deck. Gonna have some success here. You love to see it. This is the most important day that we've had of Clash Royale League in 2022. This is the most important match for both of these guys, and these are the decks they come out with. I absolutely love it.
Here comes the clone. Surge, I believe, does not have that log and cycle. Oh, he does. He cycles back to it, so he is going to be chilling. I think another thing that's really important here is the E-Spirit as well. E-Spirit, one of the best counters to the clone. The Fire Spirit does connect there. Furnace is a really interesting choice in this deck. It is like kind of paying off. And another Fire Spirit connection, killing that Firecracker as well.
Yeah, Firecracker, even though the Spirit doesn't have a whole lot of health, jumps in the Firecracker, gets that splash damage on tower, and now Sweep trying to build a big push-up at the bridge.
Yeah, I wonder what Sweep's last card is.
I wonder what Surge's last card is. Is it RG, you think?
Yeah, Surge's last card has to be RG. Sweep's last card is really important. It looks like it's not an arrows or something like this.
It's Heal Spirit. I'm calling it right now.
No way. But yeah, if it was arrows, it would be really nice to be able to deal with these Firecrackers. I mean, obviously, I would say it has to be some sort of big spell. I mean, who knows? Yeah. Maybe if Sweep, like, even though Surge has all these answers, maybe if Sweep just has some really solid defense, he can maybe clutch up a W here with...
Wow.
Wow, there's no way.
Wow!
There's no way!
And there you go!
There's no way!
Can Surge pull it in time? Surge gets the last second pull off. That is maybe the best fisherman in the history of Surgical Goblin's career. Saves his tower, saves his life here in game number 1. RG finally comes down. Barbs are there to meet. Fireball ready to go. Are you kidding me?
So this is definitely like confirming my theory that Surge is coming with a counter snipe here. There's no way you are that confident in a pre-fireball without Sweep using barbs at all, unless you know exactly what deck your opponent is using.
I'm like, maybe he was looking for the Furnace with that fireball. I don't know, but the fact that barbs came out for Surgical Goblin, you said it a moment ago, the GOAT has a little bit of luck on his side. A great fireball, 2131 and 1734 though are the tower HPs for Sweep with only a minute remaining. Surgical Goblin only 800 against this weird no-win condition, if you will, deck out of Sweep. It's all about that overpower and that bridge buildup, and we saw how that's paid off already once so far.
Yeah, I still can't believe that I can't believe that the Giant Skelly made the tower, but I also can't believe that Fisherman survived, or like made so that he was able to survive. And at this point in the game, it's triple elixir. Sweep does not have any spells in this deck. These Firecrackers are going to be building up. Everything, the Hunter, the RGs, everything's going to be building up. There's definitely a solid chance that Surge is going to make a crazy comeback right now. But this clone, the Giant Skellys and everything is doing a pretty good job of defending, but now we have 3 Firecrackers on the board. 18 seconds left. Who's going to be taking this W?
Oh, Surge trying to come in, but he does have the Furnace. The barrel or the barbs are not there. Furnace comes down, barbs comes down. Surgical is going to go down in game number 1 against this weird deck from Sweep that just worked out brilliantly. And I gotta say, Juicy, had Surge recognized earlier that there was no big spell in Sweep's deck, I think we would have seen 9 Firecrackers on the board, 4 on one side, 5 on the other, and Surgical Goblin would have won game number 1. But he didn't recognize it until way too late.
Yeah, I would actually have to disagree with that. I think he recognized it, but Sweep did such a good job of just applying pressure and taking out those Firecrackers. He didn't allow them to be getting built up. Even when Surge did get 3 Firecrackers built up there, Sweep did such a good job with a perfectly timed Queen ability, taking all of them out. Once again, I do think Surge came with a counter snipe there, and I think he had a really good matchup, but somehow Sweep just making it happen with that clone.
What a crazy game number 1 as we hop into game number 2 here. Hog's already on the tower there for Surgical Goblin, down to 1794. 2 untouched towers here for Sweep. Mini P.E.K.K.A.'s out in both directions as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I would say, I mean, I don't know. This could be anything from Surge. It could, I mean, it can be RG. He goes for the Mother Witch. Maybe a weird bridge spam deck, like a Magnite bridge spam deck. Sweep with the mirror and the mini P.E.K.K.A. It's probably like a variation of that giant Skelly mirror deck that we see so much.
Yeah. Yeah, we saw a version earlier that was very similar to the giant Skelly mirror deck, but it had Mega Knight and mini P.E.K.K.A. in, so it looks like we might be seeing that here again from Sweep. MK comes down. Ram Rider not able to get on top of tower.
Yeah, so it looks like maybe a Mega Knight to bridge spam mirror matchup at the moment.
With Inferno. Okay, all right. Interesting matchup here. Inferno going to get on top of tower. Wow! And that is a big misstep there by Surge. Luckily has the zap to reset, but that's not going to be enough. It feels like this set might be all sewn up for Surgical Goblin.
Surge calls the good game, and I think you're absolutely right. Sweep just realizing his opponent not having enough elixir to deal with that really strong Mega Knight Inferno Dragon push. The Queen did its best, but it just wasn't enough. And then just doubling down with those Royal Hogs, that's something that you see a lot of the time when you are applying that pressure and you're realizing your opponent's having a tough time defending. They're using a lot of elixir like that Queen, that zap, going for those piggies there in the single elixir, made it so that Surge did not have enough elixir for his Mega Knight to come down. And now all Sweet has to do is defend for another 45 seconds, and I don't think it'll be too difficult.
No, I mean, you got so many great responses in here to defend with, whether it's the Zappies, whether it's the high mini P.E.K.K.A.s you see right there, the MK coming down, and the Surgical Goblin is getting a nice pile up here at the bridge, but MK should be able to come back down here in just a moment. No, goes with the arrows instead, gets that kite there with the last piggy, and now we'll have to just play it Inferno. Not enough elixir in hand for the MK, but it should not matter.
Yeah, Surge is doing a great job. He's doing everything he can to make something happen, but Sweep's just got so much HP on that tower, and he's able to survive it. Surge can give up with the lightning on the King Tower. And what do you know it? Me and Josh are right. Sweep going to take this dub against Surge, and I believe that means Surge is eliminated, right?
Yeah, Surge is out for the day. He has one more chance tomorrow, his last opportunity to show up at World Finals since the last time that he showed up when he won back in 2019. And a very, very interesting set. I mean, that's really the only way to chalk it up. That game number 1, man, I have never seen a deck quite like that. I mean, you kept talking about the counter snipe that Surge came out with, but like, how on earth did he know that that's what Sweep was going to play? And do you think that was a good idea for Sweep to play that deck?
So Sweep has played that deck before. Okay. And that's why Surge went for the counter snipe. Both players going for the snipes, and Surge came on top, but somehow Sweep just able to abuse that clone when the fireballs and stuff, or maybe even the E-spirits were out of cycle. Yeah. And just basically just completely overpowering. Surge did a great job of trying to come back with those pre-fireballs on the Barbarians. Maybe like you were saying, maybe if he just got more Firecrackers down, maybe he focused on one lane instead of kind of getting damage on both, he could have found a way to come back. But yeah, I think Sweep just somehow able to win this set 2-0 against Surge, and now he's getting himself in a really nice spot. He just needs one more win to qualify.
That's right, sweeping as we go into another matchup here. KK versus Sandbox. KK has game number 1.
Wow, this is a great push on this right-hand side. Huge drill bridge fan push. Mighty Miner does get that bomb down to help out a bit, but with this cannon cart looking so healthy, Barbell does clean it up, but this cannon cart, like I said, very healthy, going to be tanking for this drill. Those goblins are doing a lot of damage right now.
Yeah, you see there just a little bit coming in there. A few stabs into 1847, 2438, the lowest tower here for Sandbox.
Yeah, KK going with a Mighty Miner in the back, activating that 3-card cycle, and going for this RG in the other lane. He wants to maybe prevent those huge pushes that we just saw, which makes a lot of sense. He was helping clean up everything, kind of helping stun everything on both sides. Hunter at the bridge here, trying to take that out. Magic Archer to take the Hunter out, but then Fireball cleans that up. We are in triple elixir now. There is another nice drill push on this right-hand side for Sandbox. Going at the Golden Knight at the bridge as well. Is KK going to be able to stop this charge?
Oh!
No! Mighty Miner plays directly at the bridge, but it's not enough to stop it. Golden Knight.
Yeah, Barbarian, I think, was close enough from KK that chains it to the tower. Now 489 remains as we see KK come down with an RG. NATO going to pull it back, and it's just not going to be enough. 30 seconds remaining here, and it feels like we're going to be going on to game number 3. Great plays there from Sandbox in a deck that we haven't seen quite as much in the competitive scene over the last few weeks, but still very, very strong.
Yeah, absolutely. That Gold Knight nerf definitely was a big hit to this deck. This deck does rely a lot on those Gold Knight connections, but the nerf was HP based only. As we can see here, that dash is still as lucrative as ever. Huge value connecting the tower, getting enough damage to clutch up this victory.
Yeah, great game number 2 there from Sandbox. Now we can take a look here at the decks that they've used so far. It's going to be a very quick look, but a look still at that. So we see KK, no Fireball, no Bar Barrel, no arrows, no mirror. Other side of it, Sandbox, no Log, no NATO, no Earthquake. And Fire Spirit and Skelly's out. Still has the Skelly King available and the Mighty Miner. We'll see which one he wants to go with, or if he decides to opt out here in game number 3. Whoever wins this, also qualifying for World Finals.
Looks like Giant Skeletons are out for both players as well. Bats and Snowball on defense from Sandbox versus Hog. Really, really solid. Already, just looking at the Snowball. Snowball actually one of the best Hog counters in the game. I think Sandbox has got to be feeling pretty good about that. KK missing this Valk on the Miner here, and Sandbox getting a little bit of chip damage. I think if Sandbox defends well, he should win, but you know, with this Queen, with the 3-card cycle, you never know what can happen. We saw in a match versus with Air Surfer, huge comebacks are always possible when you got the Queen plus Hog EQ.
Yeah, it looks like, what, Mortar here from Sandbox?
Yep, absolutely. Huge counter push.
Go into the back. Yeah, this is a great counter push. Not a lot of elixir to deal with it. Nice Ice Spirit plus Cannon here, and I think in terms of defenses, that's about as good as it can get, but a better Snowball out of Sandbox there to get a couple Musketeer shots in. A brilliant heads-up play.
I'm always fascinated by how quick these players are with their Snowballs. Snowball is just one of those cards. It just does a nice job of slowing everything down. It's almost like a mini freeze. You can kind of get some nice connections, some sneaky connections, and 2 Musketeer shots on the right-hand side is definitely a big deal in a kind of quick cycle matchup like this. Yeah,
100%. I think earlier we saw, Morton get like 30 Dart Goblin shots in with a perfectly timed Snowball. So one of the cards in the game that I think is under-celebrated by a lot of people in mid-ladder and at the lower tiers, but still, especially when you talk about dual mode and competitive, Snowball is a very, very good card when used correctly.
Absolutely. I think that, like you said, I think Log is generally the small spell of choice in a lot of matchups. But with the duels formatting, Snowball definitely sneaking in here a couple times, and it's always nice to see some good plays. And we are heading into double elixir here. Both towers down to 2 HP for KK there, or sorry, 2k HP. And then Sandbox's towers, though, looking really healthy. We're at the bridge with this Musketeer. See how KK defends this.
Yeah, and he goes up 1 tile there on the Mortar. Not a big deal. Poison comes down to help deal with both of these.
Yeah, I think the other thing about this matchup is the spell damages. A lot of the time when you're in a quick cycle matchup like this where you can defend each other very well, spell damage does matter quite a bit, and that poison obviously doing a lot of damage for 4 elixir spells. Definitely gonna be a lot more than the earthquake can do.
And you can see KK he continues to make sure that Sandbox cannot play that skeleton army in response to the Hog Rider, sending in a log behind or an earthquake in front, whatever it may be. And we'll see when Sandbox is able to get that Skarmy back down to defend, as the Skeleton King gets cleaned up there by the Archer Queen. Hog Rider needs a little bit more attention. Bats will do it. And now a second Hog Rider comes down. Now we see the Skarmy. Log has to come in. There it is. Perfect play on both sides.
Yeah, that was really, really smart. I think KK needed to delay a little bit more and have a little bit quicker pre-log there. I don't think he had enough elixir to go for the pre-log right away. So that's why that Hog just not able to connect. Sandbox did go for that snowball just to make sure, which was really smart. Almost into triple elixir now, 20 seconds. This match, I feel like could go either way. All it takes for KK to win this is just one mistake, one Hog connection. But if Sandbox can play well enough and prevent that from happening, I think he will take this win.
Yeah, nice miner to come out last second there for Sandbox to defend. And Sandbox making a case for the reverse sweep here, maybe a high mortar. There it is, high mortar up high as those skeletons pile up on that left-hand tower. 12:42 to 18:54. Winner of this game goes to World Finals. Only 45 seconds remain. Sandbox up by a lot. Nice miner plus snowball coming in.
So much ship damage to his left-hand side. It's really important to note that the Skeleton King ability was able to do so much on that left-hand side as well in that last push. And we got 2 Hog Riders coming in with this Queen 3-card cycle. But look at this defense. It's so surgical.
Not enough. Yeah, I mean, those Musketeers doing so much single-target DPS. You have the snowball there if you need it. You can play the Skarmy late. You got the mortar to come back around. There's just so many great options here for Sandbox.
Yeah, I think if Sandbox, let's do a brainstorm. If Sandbox did have the log instead of snowball in this match, I feel like there's so many times where that Hog Rider might have been able to sneak in a hit. But like I said, snowball just one of the best counters to the Hog. Like basically any card plus snowball can defend a Hog for 0 hits most of the time.
KK still alive on the day, but the real story is Sandbox moves on to our World Finals. Great plays there from him. The snowball putting in work time and time again. And Juicy, we are moving through the day. More and more people qualifying. And honestly, in terms of people that have qualified today, not really a lot of surprises other than I'd say maybe, was it Toby, I believe? Or no, Keith, excuse me.
Yeah, I just want to say I was right about that match versus Toby and what was it? It was Toby and Hugo, I believe. He did win that match. I'm not sure how he's doing right now.
Yeah, Keith's still alive. We can take a look here. We're in round number 4. Looks like Doom was able to 2-0 Pandora. We just saw that Morton was able to qualify. So we have Doom and Morton. 2 more players that have qualified. Morton was able to go 2-1 over Vitor. Hubie eliminated for today. No, excuse me. Nikoko eliminated for today. Surge eliminated for the day. And Trainer Toby also eliminated for the day. We're about to get into round number 5. So far, Air Surfer, Humble Keith, Morton, Sandbox, and Doom have all qualified. We're going to bring back AC. AC, how's that action been off camera, my friend?
Okay, so let me start with this. I was supposed to go to the bathroom during the break, and then I started watching Sandbox's games, and I said, forget that. I'll just do it in an hour, because I'd rather watch Sandbox's games. And it was brilliant. I didn't watch any of the other action. I didn't even find out that Morton qualified until you said it on broadcast. Because, yeah, that was just a brilliant game. My mouth was agape the entire match. I couldn't believe how he defended, how he started off that game, what he was able to accomplish when, on paper, that looks like the most difficult matchup ever. You have Mortar, your opponent has Earthquake. What are you supposed to do? And that was just brilliant throughout.
Yeah, I mean, like Juicy and I were talking about, I think that snowball was kind of a great equalizer there. You talk about that mortar defense with an earthquake coming down or any support that gets on top of that mortar. And then, you know, a log might not do it every single time. A snowball will do it almost every single time. And then the space that was created with that snowball offensively was some really, really great stuff there. Out of the people that have qualified so far today, Air Surfer, Keith, Morton, Sandbox, and Doom. Any surprises? Anyone that you're super happy about? Either of you guys? No?
I will start off by saying no real surprises. I think the only real surprise is that Pandora lost to Doom. But it doesn't shock me that Doom qualified. I think he's a fantastic player, and he was one of those players that I really wanted to keep my eye on. I think for the most part, I mean, Keith, Air Surfer, Doom, Morton, Sandbox, no shockers to me.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Go ahead, Juicy.
Yeah, I was just going to say I would agree. I think the other thing that kind of goes along with that same mindset is, yeah, I mean, it's crazy that Surge is knocked out. He does have the last chance qualifier tomorrow. But once again, I'm not surprised to see Sweep taking that W and make it on to that next round.
Yuya, Hugo, Nakoko, Trainer Toby, and Surge will all be back tomorrow for our last chance qualifier. The next matchup that we're going to hop into, it's going to be Ender versus Sweep. I feel like, before I say goodbye, I feel like you guys are probably both going Sweep on this one.
Gotta do it. I gotta.
Yeah, there's nothing really else that could be said. That was actually just a spectacular match against Surgical, and it kind of just confirmed everything that I was kind of leaning towards. And now I'm just all in on the Sweep train. I think that he's got this.
Well, AC, what did you think about the deck in game number 1, busting it out here at the quals? It worked out really well, huh?
Yeah, I think it's one of those like parental advisory kind of things. You're not supposed to do it, but if it works out for you, no one can say anything.
Do not try this at home.
Yeah, I mean, we saw those pileups at the bridge. They just became so overwhelming, and while Surge had a ton of range DPS, splash DPS, piercing DPS, it just was not enough. And yeah, I mean, it does look like, in terms of what you guys are speaking on Surge being, or excuse me, Sweep being dialed in, and maybe Surge being just off a step in that game number 2, I think that's where it really showed. Where in game number 1, I think for a while he was trying to figure out how to play through the matchup, and then it was just a little bit too little, too late. In terms of Surgical and that, I guess there'll be more on him tomorrow. We got 6 more people that are still alive today. We got 3 more matches to close out at least this round. Vitor versus Hubie, Energy versus Sweep, which we're going to see, and then Pandora versus KK. That's kind of the one that I think is the most up in the air. I honestly, I think I do probably lean towards Pandora for some reason, but as we've said many times today, I think that's anyone's game.
Yeah, I do have to stick with Pandora. I think eventually he's going to qualify, and that's what I'm sticking with.
I mean, if Josh is gonna take Pandora, I guess I'll take KK. I'm gonna make it interesting. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's one of those matchups where it literally could go either way. In terms of decks today, is there anything that's really stood out to either of you guys? Juicy, maybe I'll start with you. Any decks that you think or any cards that have really surprised you?
I mean, obviously Sweep with the clone. That might be the first time we've seen clone. I'm surprised to not see as much like giant Skelly RG. Definitely not a lot of that. And then other than that, we have seen quite a bit of lava and just quite a bit more lava in like beatdown oriented stuff, and maybe a little bit less drill. We haven't seen as much drill. Maybe as the meta or as the players become better and better at defending those drills with like perfect placement and stuff, maybe it starts to fall out. Maybe it's a little bit less consistent of a win condition as we thought. But yeah, I think that's my thoughts on that.
AC, we've seen RG be really successful over the last few months. Is there a reason why you think it's struggling here today specifically, or maybe a reason why we're seeing it less today, or do you think it's just kind of the luck of the draw? This is this weekend's meta.
I do think that it kind of leans towards this week's meta, and then I think maybe one of the reasons is just because of how strong Mighty Miner is now. Yeah. We've seen RG attempt to get damage against a Mighty Miner bait deck, and it just doesn't work out that way. We've seen missed bomb towers and RG's on the tower, and it just not mattering. And I think a lot of it comes down to just how strong the Mighty Miner is.
All right, sounds good to me. I'm going to do it again because I enjoy saying goodbye to myself. I'm out of here. You guys have fun. I'll be back in just a little bit.
All right, so we do have Ender going against Sweep as our next matchup. In terms of, you know what, let's talk about Sweep because it's been so enjoyable so far. I'm guessing I know your answer, but do you expect more craziness out of that man?
Yeah, I would say he's definitely going to be going for the snipes. Maybe against a less experienced player, maybe he will like go more towards like comfort or maybe just like consistency rather than trying to snipe. I think if from Ender's perspective, you're seeing Sweep go with all these crazy decks, maybe, I mean, he has two options. He either conforms to the craziness and he does what Surge does, like throwing Firecracker in the RG decks and trying to get like some good matchups that way, or maybe he's just going to like stick to that comfort and just try and like get solid matchups and play better. I think Sweep, as we saw in that match for Surge, not only does he go for those crazy decks, but he also knows how to play them. He also knows like how to do it. So honestly, if I'm Ender, I'm probably gonna go for just conforming to that craziness, try and like counter snipe, try and do something you won't expect, because there really is no predicting what Sweep is going to do.
Yeah, absolutely correctly. So I'm looking at Sweep's battle log right here. I would say out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 games that he's played, I would classify 2 of his decks as meta. And
Wow.
I don't think that's a ratio that even Sweep should be able to pull off.
Yeah.
So I think if we stick with this, it means in all likelihood we're going to see at least 2 of the 3 games be crazy decks. Although we've seen the first 2 cards, he could just be running a normal deck, which is just weird to see out of him.
Yeah, and this is kind of what I was talking about, like maybe against someone he thinks that he's better at or better than, just skill level wise. Maybe he wants to go towards more of a meta deck and just kind of see how he can do. He does have the mini P.E.K.K.A. though. I think the mini P.E.K.K.A. is a really interesting pick. Going into Lava Loon Mighty Miner. Ender, Lava first game here with very aggressive Lava in the back. It's kind of interesting. I think overall Sweep's matchup here is not easy. I think he's going to need a counter activation with like a Drill plus Tornado combo if he wants to win this.
Absolutely. And so one of the things that I've noticed from some of the other players is that when they are running these Lava decks, they do place the Tombstone a little bit higher. And I'm wondering if we're going to see that adjustment from Ender, especially because his opponent does have the mini P.E.K.K.A. and so he is going to try and go opposite lane. But that low Tombstone did force out the Mighty Miner in the middle, and so I'm just going to see if he's going to adjust as this game goes on.
You're absolutely right. Look at that. Tombstone up 1 tile from the normal spot, and that will pull this mini P.E.K.K.A. now. This mini P.E.K.K.A. is not going to be able to go opposite lane, and Ender knows that. He uses the Mighty Miner defense versus the Drill here, and yeah, the mini P.E.K.K.A. just not getting much value.
And right there, he is going to have a baby counter push. It is going to force out the Golden Knight, and it also might force out the dash. If he doesn't utilize the dash, the Mighty Miner will do too much damage to it, and this Inferno Dragon is going to clean up. But Sweep, using the Xe NATO variation, he's not going to be able to really get a great NATO in, but he should be able to activate King Tower easily if he chooses to go that route.
Yeah, and I was just talking about how, you know, this deck doesn't have great air counters, but Sweep, just once again, crazy solid deck pick here. Putting the Executioner and cleaning that Lava push up fantastically, and that King Tower activation I was talking about earlier, going to be so useful at helping on the defenses versus these balloon pushes.
Golden Knight is able to get the dash on top of the Tombstone, not going to do anything else, and now this is the question. I mean, how do you attack a deck with Xe? And so Ender is going to attempt to go in with a Mighty Miner plus Loon combo opposite lane. I just don't think that's going to be that effective. The mini P.E.K.K.A. is going to take out the Mighty Miner pretty easily, and we're just going to see another NATO. This is a brutal matchup for Ender and a phenomenal deck choice from Sweep.
Absolutely, and even with that phenomenal deck choice, I think Ender's doing the right things. Like, he's doing everything he can. I really like how he's splitting up his pressure on both sides. The Executioner's not getting like crazy value, but yeah, it's just not enough. Look at this huge push. Golden Knight connection, Drill connection, Executioner. Not quite able to line up with the tower, but huge damage there. And I mean, how does Ender come back? Like, you almost have to go with like a Mighty Miner Loon opposite lane, followed by with like Skeleton Dragons to push the Loon in order to bypass the Drill or something like that. But we've also seen Sweep just have really nice placements of his Drill to prevent anything like that happening.
Yeah, I mean, this is just putting on a clinic from Sweep. And I think it maybe comes down to, could he have gotten away with not being aggressive early on, trying to stack troops and then trying to stack, you know, possibly a Loon in the back, opposite lane, and then a Loon at the bridge, you know, behind a lava or something. I think this is one of those games where you kind of, you mess around with this kind of matchup in like a sandbox mode, and it's like, oh, if I ever go against this is terrible for me, and you just hope you never have to go against it.
Yep, and Ender's definitely feeling the pain on that matchup right now, taking that first loss. Sweep just needs one more to qualify here. This is a qualify and elimination match right now, with these players being 2-2. We're hopping to the next match. I mean, I was going to ask you what decks you think we're going to see here, but with Sweep, I guess we just never know.
Yeah, and that actually does beg the question, was that a mistake to use lava? You know, one of the old comments that was always made is when you're going against a player that runs weird decks, they tend to be heavier decks, they tend to match up well against air units because they have the Inferno Dragons, they have the Executioners, they have the Archer Queen plus Minion Horde plus Mother Witch plus Mirror kind of thing. Do you think it was a mistake to use Lava Loon in game number 1?
That's a really good point, and I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, just Lava Hound. I don't know, Lava Hound's one of those decks where you need a pretty solid matchup to ensure the victory. And when you're playing against crazy decks like that, it's definitely just something where it's hard to get that sort of situation happening.
So right here, one hog on top of the tower just chomping away, eating the tower all the way down to 1735. A great situation for Ender so far. And he does use the mirror for the giant skeleton, that level 13 giant skeleton appearing behind the king tower, and Sweep responding with his own mirror, using it on top of the royal recruits. A great situation for Sweep, and that Mother Witch is going to get value, but because it's not locked onto the correct troop, those recruits are going to put in a lot of work and take it out quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other thing there is, since their recruits were level 13, so healthy, the Mother Witch just had a really hard time DPSing those down. She does spawn a couple pigs here and there, but with Ender not having a big spell, just arrows, this Flying Machine is just getting so much value from the sky. Sweep is down damage right now, but I can totally see him coming back if he keeps playing like this.
Yeah, this is this is just one of those matchups where, you know, what do you use your mirror on, because it's so effective no matter what. You can use it on the Flying Machine, the recruits, sometimes you can use it on the Royal Hogs. I mean, really, it's just so awkward for Ender to even just try and get damage, just because you know he has so many answers available to him.
Yeah, absolutely. He just has... Even the Dark Prince here, like the Dark Prince and the Cage, just always preventing like any sort of mirror pigs connection. Yeah, I think you're absolutely like... I think Ender, he's having a really hard time of choosing what he wants to mirror, but from Sweep, he's just having a very easy time of just, look, mirror arrows, kind of cleaning up everything. And yeah, I mean, Sweep's got the damage lead now. He's going for some pigs on this counter push. I think he's got this game.
Yeah, we see the Royal Hogs tower all the way down to 832, 684, 536. What can he do against it? This is going to be the push. I mean, this is basically it.
Yeah,
can he get the Royal Hogs?
Push. I wonder.
Can he?
Oh, mirror arrow, bro! Mirror arrows just killed everything. That was like a nuke. That was insane.
Yeah, mirror arrows doing so much work, and it's just not going to leave him with enough elixir. The Zappies plus the Fishermen are going to be able to put in a little bit of work. We see the defensive arrows, but now the question is, will the mirrored arrows come out from Sweep himself? It's not going to matter. Tower down, Sweep qualifying, moving on to not the next stage, but Helsinki.
Fascinating gameplay from Sweep there. Once again, the deck pick definitely on point, I'd say. I don't know. I'm not surprised, but I'm happy and excited for him. It'll be fun to see him out there in Helsinki.
Yeah, and I really do think, I mean, so game number 1, he goes out with a Lava Loon, and it really shouldn't match up well against a lot of Sweeps decks. At the same time, game number 2, just using what everybody else is using. This is exactly what Sweep is hoping for. A a tanky lava deck, and then just a meta deck. It feels like it's too easy to match up against Ender, and maybe Ender was overthinking, and it's like, oh, well, maybe Sweep has that advantage over me. Maybe he thinks that he can use meta, and then meta is where I can outplay Sweep. And maybe he just overthought too much, and it just allowed Sweep to easily set himself up for for that set.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Sweep's definitely just someone where I feel like it's really hard to play against because you can't predict what he's going to do. If you do somehow do that and predict what he's going to do, the deck's so crazy. And like when you're practicing, you're not practicing against those crazy decks. You're practicing against other meta decks. So even if you do get the prediction on his deck right, like we saw in Surge's match, it just didn't matter. But sounds like Andrew's going to be coming back here.
That I am, boys. I'm back. I'm ready to go. And we got CRL22 versus Vitor coming up next here in just a minute. We just saw Sweep qualify, and you know what? I don't know Sweep as well as you guys. I haven't been on the Sweep train as long, but I've seen some great stuff out of him. I'm excited to see what he does at World Finals after that last qualifying moment. I mean, the deck choices and the innovation has been, I think, far superior to anyone else that we've seen today in terms of the innovation and also pulling out weird stuff. And that's the type of person that I love to see at World Finals. I'm so excited for him, and I'm sure you guys are as well. But when we talk about Vitor and Hubie, any thoughts here, guys? It looks like here in the last set, Koffer against Nikoko, he went with Giant Skeleton, Royal Giant, and Archer Queen in his final game. He ran a little bit of minor poison control with Musketeer. He's been kind of all over the board. Looks like he's leaned on Bait a couple times. Looks like Bait and RG have been kind of his favorites on the day, but he has played a lot of different archetypes. And then in terms of Vitor, when you go through and you look at his battle log, it feels almost just completely all over the place. There's absolutely no way to snipe it. He ran a little bit of 3M earlier, it looks like. AC,
Did he win or lose?
I'm sure you're very happy about that. I mean, it's against Air Surfer. This is it was a win with 3M, but I don't know if this was before we actually got into duel mode. I think that maybe was practice. I'm not 100% sure before we got into the competition here of today. Vitor and Hubie, any thoughts here? I mean, I would probably go towards Vitor, but I just know him better. But I also know that CRL22 has been a guy that maybe you guys know a little bit better than I do. AC, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to Hubie was 0-2, and now he's 2-2. He's battling for that next stage. I think I'm always going to root for and always going to cheer on those players that can come from the brink of destruction, everything is against them, and they battle back. I love seeing that in a player. It's weird because Vitor is obviously incredibly talented, has a great team behind him.
Right.
But I do have to lean towards the player with the momentum.
So it was Vitor who went 2-0 to start his day, and then he dropped down after losing to Nikoko. But we're going to hop into the game here, so we're going to say goodbye to Juicy J, I believe. I'm not 100% sure. Juicy, we'll see you in just a minute. AC, you and I are going to hold down the fort as we hop into this game. Faust, bottom of your screen. Vitor at the top. Bats, snowball out early.
Vitor finally feeling like he should respond Mighty Miner in response to the opposing Mighty Miner from Faust. A 200 HP discrepancy because Vitor didn't want to play. And that's all right. You don't have to.
So there we go. Mighty Miner. I mean, it literally was just the Electro Giant, right, AC? I mean, that was the reason why Mighty Miner just disappeared for a couple months.
Yeah, I mean, it just felt like people didn't figure it out, maybe, because I think it does have to do with E-Giant, and then when E-Giant wasn't in cycle, players just didn't have enough experience with it against other matchups. Because, I mean, with the dual format, we know if one card is out, if there's no Earthquake in cycle, you can get away with using Mortar, you can get away with certain cards, and I guess people just didn't give it the shot that it deserved.
I mean, I love it. I love the card. I think it's one of the coolest designs ever, and I think what that bomb can do is one of the most interesting interactions that is in the game currently. So both of them favoring that big guy with the big drill. Dark Goblin going to sneak in and get on top of tower. That is trouble. Bats come in to save a little bit of grace there, but damage done, and damage done early. 1655 to 25-72 with a little bit of bat love in there, and that was just a great gotcha moment by Vitor.
And right here, this is slightly scary. He will not be able to get any card in front of the Mighty Miner. The guards will come down, but not after the Mighty Miner gets the tower down to 18-12. And so here is where it gets kind of weird. Usually one player has the advantage with the spell power, and it's obvious which one is going to be able to get the win when it's close. But the difference is, you know, this is Hog EQ cycle against the bait rocket. So you're never going to allow your opponent to have the opportunities to get off the rockets. And on the flip side, you know, you only need 1 or 2 rockets to win the game no matter what. So it's just interesting to see which player is going to be able to utilize those spells late game.
We haven't talked about this deck yet, AC. This deck has kind of taken the world by storm. The meta Grand Challenges top ladder at the bottom of your screen here. Any thoughts on this specifically? I mean, it's a little bit different than what you're going to see on ladder because we're in duel mode, but the general idea is there. Mighty Miner, Earthquake, Mortar, and Hog Rider. I kind of love this deck. I'm not great with it because I'm still getting used to the synergy, but what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, if you can play the Skelly Snowball the way that he just played that, able to take out the Goblin Barrel entirely, I think it's a phenomenal deck. I think there's a lot of opportunities with it. We're seeing just how effective it is. Now, I don't know what he's going to do in this position.
I don't either.
Wow.
Snowball comes down as well. That is about as good as it gets. Rocket comes in. Faust dropping game number 1. Brilliant stuff there from Vitor. And this, I said this at the top of the day, and this deck, while Mirrored Barrel, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it does go back to what you're saying. Maybe Mirrored Barrels going up to level 13 or 16 is just a little bit too much to deal with. That entire game went in the blink of an eye with that second barrel coming down.
Yeah, I was so excited to talk about why I like the deck, and then I couldn't get the words out because I was looking at my screen, I was looking at the tower HP, and I was just thinking to myself, there's no way this stands to that kind of pressure.
So Rocket out early here in game number 2 from Faust. We'll see if that overspend is going to be something that he's going to have to deal with here in just a moment as Vitor starts stacking souls opposite lane of this bomber. I feel like that bomber probably gets completely ignored unless he can play something up high DPS-wise, and there it is, completely ignored. Coffer, Faust, he knows it's going to come, gets that high Inferno, good plays on both sides.
Yeah, that was scarily close to being a brilliant place from Faust right there. If he was able to go in with the Inferno Tower and catch the mortar that he knew his opponent was going to run, that would have been one of the best plays that I've seen. It would have given him a huge advantage. Not going to be the case, but still not a bad situation. Just great defense right there. And, I mean, so far, he is going to, you know, struggle once those mortars really start to heat up as double and triple elixir happens. But, I mean, I like how both of these players have started out this game. I think Vitor had a great opportunity to get a lot of damage. And on the flip side, Faust knew the interactions. He knew he could get away with a rocket as long as he defended the way he did.
Yeah, and you saw there Vitor maybe thinking he was going to get a bit more out of that interaction. And Faust did get a little lucky when you talk about that shot from the mortar that came in from Vitor, not killing the goblins that got on top of that miner. And if that miner was able to tank for those bats, then we would have seen a little bit of trouble for Faust, but not the case. Nice reset as we see here. Bomber trying to deal with this giant Skeleton King. Log comes in to clean up. 24-03 to 27-86 in game number 2. Vitor up 1. Winner qualifies. Loser has to play tomorrow in the LCQ against the other 8 people who were not able to find 3 wins today.
Never the most fun position when you know your opponent has the Fire Spirit in cycle and you have to cycle the bats in the back. But really, you're just trying to set up for that next push. You're just trying to set up for the Skeleton King to pop the souls, to finally get across the bridge and actually have a lot of offensive pressure. But really, I mean, he's just kind of, you know, testing the waters. the game is far from finished, and he doesn't really know what the best way to get the pressure on the tower is just yet.
So still feeling each other out are Vitor and Hubie, only separated by a couple hundred HP. Drill going back in, Bats to respond, and I guess the interesting thing here for Faust is he doesn't really have a way to do the punish that you get with Drill a lot, even if it's just a snowball, you know, especially in late game. You know it, AC, that fireball Drill cycle is imperative to success a lot of times late game with Drill.
Yeah, absolutely. It changes the entirety of the game, and you know that's the difference. You know why we saw the Rocket early on in the game. He kind of understands that it's weird to get damage, and you know you can tank more damage sometimes, and you have to tank less. Everything is just weird in the matchup, so it's a lot of fun to watch. Right there, Inferno Tower getting a lot of value. And the Bomber's putting in a lot of work, but the Musketeer just staying alive.
Yeah, Log has to come down now. Mortar dealing with that Bomber. Muskie comes in. Mortar will not get a shot. Miner goes to the back. High Inferno here to clean up. That Musketeer should do good work on the Inferno. And then need a little response. There we go. Bandit.
I have been so impressed at how Faust has played this matchup. I mean, everything has been so perfect. The Inferno Tower low, gets the Fire Spirit, but doesn't place it too high where the Bats are able to chomp away at the bit. And, I mean, just everything is placed correctly, and it's just not mattering. Sometimes, you know, these players, they're so skilled that they can believe, you know, they believe they're going to win if they have, you know, their comfort deck. And sometimes it doesn't work like that, and I think this might be one of those times where he's just too confident in himself.
1729. Did the Rocket miss? Am I crazy or no? Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe I'm crazy.
I don't know. And actually, earlier on in the day, one of the players did lose a game because he missed a rocket. So it wouldn't shock me if that happened again.
So a game that was very, very close, now getting a little bit separated here as Vitor has been able to put in some good work. As you said, AC, those mortars have been relentless. And while I've been very impressed with how Faust has been dealing with everything, it's still him kind of dealing, responding, surviving, treading water, whereas Vitor was the one that was able to keep up the pressure for so much of that game. And we have our next qualified player for World Finals. Vitor will be competing for that $1 million prize in just a couple of weeks in Helsinki, Finland. And unfortunately, Faust will be back tomorrow for the LCQ, trying to stay alive, keep his run going. We got one match left, AC. One match for the day, one more player to qualify. That's it. We've been on a run. And then tomorrow, guys, remember, same time, same place. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Turn on those notifications, whether you're here on YouTube or you're on Twitch. Make sure you have those notifications turned on so you know that when we go live, whether it's tomorrow for the LCQ or for the World Finals 3-day event in just a little bit. Juicy J, talk to me, man. How did you feel about the matchup that we just saw? What stood out to you?
So he actually did miss that rocket.
He did? Okay, I was like, I thought he did. I thought he missed the rocket.
And if he didn't, he would have won.
No! No way, man. Oh.
That was the biggest thing that stood out to me.
And I was just going to say, I was like, you know, in Vitor, yeah, it's a pretty big standout. I was like, Vitor is going to give rocket value here. And it was like the first time he'd given rocket value in so long with the Skeleton King walking by that Princess Tower. And then I looked at the damage and I was like, there's no way that he was this far behind for a rocket to have come down and him still be that much farther behind. So you guys talked about it. You've both been there on that stage. Pressure, baby. Pressure gets to you, and in maybe the most important game of Faust's entire Clash Royale career, he misses the rocket.
You still got tomorrow, though, at least. You know?
He does, and that's the thing. I mean, that's what I love about ramping up for qualifiers, is for most of these guys, you know, a couple others aside, like Surgical Goblin, you know, other world champions, this is the most important day of Clash Royale they've ever played. And tomorrow will be the most important day of Clash Royale they've ever played. And that is what I love to see. So you got to be able to buckle down those nerves. And since we got a couple minutes before we hop in, at least maybe a few seconds, number one tactic to calm your nerves when you guys were on the live stage, you know, for the people at home that hope to get there and for the 16 that will be there in World Finals, Juicy J, 2019 WCG, Xi'an, China, first place, 50 grand, I believe it was. What were you doing to calm your nerves?
Honestly, you gotta take deep breaths, maybe like even a little 5-minute meditation before the match. But I think the most important thing is actually confidence. You have to be constantly telling yourself, you got this, you got this, you can do this. If you're not doing that, the nerves will get to you, and yeah, bad things will happen, like that rocket.
AC 2v2 set, regional championship on the line. First game out, you lose. You got to reverse sweep the set. What are you doing?
Well, see, it's cheating because it's 2v2. Whenever I would get nervous, whenever I would get scared, I would just have Nick hit me on the back of the head. And I'd have to focus up. I mean, it's what weightlifters do to get that little, you know, that extra boost to get that weight off. I mean, that's how it worked. If I couldn't concentrate, if I couldn't focus up, one little smack and I'm back in it. I'm focused.
There you go. All right, AC, we're saying goodbye to you. Thanks for that little tip of knowledge. If you're nervous, just have your best friend smack you in the back of the head. AC, we'll see you in just a minute. Juicy J, we're hopping into our final matchup here of the day. Our final people to qualify. We've had a ton of people qualify. We've had a handful of people obviously be eliminated. And here we are, the final moments. How are you feeling, man? How's your day been? It's been our first day casting together.
Yeah, I'm definitely happy. You know, the matches have been fun. They've been close. I feel like the nerves are getting these players, like we were talking about.
Yeah.
I think we've seen more mistakes today than we've ever have had, like in this entire tournament. But you know, I'd be interested to see who wins this last match, and looks like we're into it.
Yeah, man. Pressure gets turned up. The mistakes start flying, and these are two guys that have a ton of experience. But even that experience has not been able to get them through some of those most crucial moments of the nerves going through the roof. KK, bottom of your screen with the NATO against that Hog Rider. Top of your screen, Pandora with Hog EQ.
Yeah, I think KK actually has an E-Giant deck here, if I'm not mistaken. E-Giant Mother Witch kind of beat down against Hog EQ. I think it's in Hog EQ's court. That's kind of a lot of the time how it works in a matchup like this, like Cycle versus Beatdown. If the Cycle player plays perfectly, you should be able to win with just some solid defense and these Earthquake chips like we're seeing. But all it really takes for KK is just one E-Giant connection, one Golden Knight connection on the tower. Yeah, who do you think's gonna win this?
I don't know, man. I mean, this is an interesting matchup. You figure with E-Giant, quick cycle is always a tough place to go against, and you have that giant skeleton kind of help everything that's in tow. I think if both these guys play a perfect game, I think Pandora probably walks away with this one. But, you know, E-Giant is really, really strong. We've seen it a couple times today, not really having a lot of success. I was watching when I was not on broadcast. I saw an E-Giant game, I think maybe from Air Surfer that was played earlier against Morton. But, you know, you're a guy that was playing a lot of E-Giant last season. Do you think it's viable still and competitive?
Honestly, no. I think that E-Giant Mirror could be viable just because of how OP Mirror is right now, before it gets nerfed. I don't see this E-Giant deck really working. Like, E-Giant just not really able to get too much damage on the tower. Even that one or two stuns really isn't what it used to be. KK does have a lot of great responses, though, to Pandora's deck. Other than the E-Giant, like he has the Inferno, he has the Lightning for the Arch Queen, and he has two really nice Hog counters. But the Hog does find a way to get a hit.
Wow. And that is what those Hog Riders do, sneaking in for a hit, 2294 to 2479. It'll be curious to see what Pandora does in terms of what lane he's going to focus on, because playing Hog Rider against E-Giant, going in the same lane once we get a double and triple elixir, I don't think it'll work out well. Maybe you know better than I do, Juicy, but in my mind, with how much kind of HP and DPS KK has, it feels like going in the same lane is really tough to continue on in overtime. That being said, already a lot of damage done on that right-hand tower. What are your thoughts?
No, yeah, it's exactly what you're saying. You definitely want to be going opposite lane, but Pandora has been absolutely just taking out this right-hand side with, you know, one Hog Rider, but also just so many different Earthquake chips. It's kind of too late to switch lanes at this point, but for some reason, KK is actually deciding to switch lanes, going for this E-Giant on this left-hand side. Maybe his goal here is to get a dual lane pressure, like multiple E-Giants on the board.
So Bomber plus Inferno come out on the left-hand side. Will we see an E-Giant on the right as he ticks to 7? No, we see a NATO to pull everything in. That Archer Queen just got so much value, and just like that, dead on the vine is KK's push, but still 80 seconds remain here in overtime. Triple Elixir is when the E-Giant deck should start to succeed. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, that's just how it works. If you do not have that lightning cycle for the Arch Queen, if it's not locked onto the E-Giant, the Tornado's not going to do anything. Arch Queen just cleans everything. It is heading to Triple Elixir. I do think you're right. I think, you know, as KK has more Elixir influx, he will be able to create these larger pushes that will basically increase the chances of maybe a mistake from Pandora. But, you know, we are in Triple Elixir. If Pandora keeps playing like he's playing, he probably will get this W.
High Goblin Cage to catch there. Second E-Giant comes down. Enough Elixir for Lightning. When will the trigger come out? No, decides to go Golden Knight instead. Hog Rider comes in here from Pandora. And while I don't hate that Hog Rider to kind of turn stuff around, he's going to maybe need that Elixir here in just a minute to defend. We'll find out. Nice
really
NATO
nice
away.
NATO. This is a huge push. Another E-Giant's come down. The Giant Skelly is doing his best. It's actually just cleaning up everything. Now we're just seeing the power of the Giant Skelly on defense. So much HP, and that Giant Skelly bomb cleaning up quite a bit as well. 12 seconds left. It doesn't look like this push is going anywhere. The Lightning tries to get enough damage, but it's not enough.
Archer Queen was not able to pop that second ability, and Pandora doing exactly what we said he needed to do with the quicker cycle deck, right? Play it near perfectly, and you will not be able to get overwhelmed by those E-Giant pushes. KK did everything that he could, changing lanes, getting 2 E-Giants down, basically throwing anything at the wall. Nothing would stick there, and like you said, Juicy, a big part of that was not only the bomb tower, but that Archer Queen and the Lightning not being able to target both. Really tough. I mean, in that situation, I think you probably do have to go for the NATO Lightning, because when you have to pick and choose between Princess Tower AQ or Princess Tower Bomb Tower, either way, I don't think you're getting on tower.
Yeah, absolutely. But the other thing that Pandora did was he was always applying pressure with those Hog Riders while KK was going with those pushes, which made it so that KK was never able to get that high elixir, like 9 elixir spell combo. And yeah, just really well played. And we're hopping to this next game. We got a Mini P.E.K.K.A and some Pigs versus, looks like to be an RG deck on the bottom from KK. I'm not sure what this could be. Pigs and a Mini P.E.K.K.A, maybe like a Mega Knight deck, maybe a Giant Skelly deck.
Yeah, there it is. I was gonna say it might be that MK Royal Hogs Mother Witch Mirror Mini P.E.K.K.A deck that we've seen a few times today. And honestly, I like the deck choice here by Pandora. I don't love the deck choice here from KK. I've watched him for a long time now. Excuse me, and I feel like a lot of times when his back is up against the wall, he always goes back to Royal Giant. And I think if you're his opponent, you start to look for that. And right now, we do see a lot of good answers for Royal Giant as those Zappies get fireballed off the board.
Yeah, his Mirror Zappies, the Mini P.E.K.K.A, really good answers to RG, but KK is finding a way to get some damage. He's got to be thankful he has the Fireball here. If he was using Lightning in this RG deck against these Zappies, he would not have a chance to ever break through. But Fireball maybe will give him a chance to get some damage in, and it did. The thing is are we ever going to be seeing any more damage as it's going to be heading into double elixir? Pandora's probably always going to have enough elixir to be dropping those mini P.E.K.K.A.s as well as the Zappies, so it could be difficult.
Yeah, and being able to set that line, the units that are going to be supporting that Royal Giant push. Not going to be able to deal too well with that MK dropping down right on top of them, so we'll see what KK's plan is. And a big shout out to the design team. We got the Mini P.E.K.K.A on top and the Royal Giant on the bottom. Both the artwork looking fresh, clean. I gotta say, I do love the new Royal Giant artwork as well.
Do you?
Yeah,
I don't know how I feel about it.
I've heard it's been the most maybe divisive of all the pieces of artwork so far that have kind of been updated. I think most people have liked all of them. I've heard a couple people, little rumblings out there of people not loving the RG, but I gotta say, I do. I'm a fan.
Yeah, he looks good. Zappies here on this Ghost, really nice surround, preventing it from splashing onto multiple units. Pandora, it does have that damage lead back already. Seeing the tide shift here in the double elixir. About to head into overtime. Mega Knight in the back. RG at the bridge.
Yeah, Mini P.E.K.K.A comes down and gets pulled away. That's a great pull there with the Fisherman. Arrows come down to clean up that Fish Boy, but the shots come in, damage is in, and Pandora maybe just sleeping a little bit on that cycle.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, KK going back to Comfort, going back to RG, maybe not always the best idea, but in this situation, he's got to be feeling pretty nice. He definitely knows what he's doing with those Fishermen pulling the mini P.E.K.K.A.s and the fireballs on these Zappies, and these RGs are connecting.
Ooh. Yeah, RG shot in again. That is a huge shot for KK, down to 297. Not enough for a fireball, but 2 will do it. We'll see how Pandora wants to keep up the pressure and stay alive here. And he's trying to get that fireball bait out on the board. See if KK bites.
Yeah, I like the Mirror Flying Machine. I think it's definitely a really good card to mirror in a matchup like this. Flying Machine does connect. That level 13 Flying Machine does a lot of damage. It's like a win condition.
And that was a great Mother Witch. Mother Witch, I think, was actually looking for the Bat Surround, but ends up catching the E-Spirit. And that's some good damage in. Now KK trying to turn up the pressure. Fireball comes in defensively there. KK does get the shot. We are going to game number 3. Winner goes on to our World Finals. Whoever gets the loss in this game number 3 will be back tomorrow morning for a bright and early start where only 2 of our 8 will qualify for World Finals.
Yeah, really nice plays there from KK, always getting those RG shots. I think Pandora did a great job of trying to come back with that Meteor Flying Machine and that Mother Witch, like you said. And he was really close. And even at the end there, I really liked the play that he did, throwing those roll hogs at the same time as the RG to try and bait that fireball, to try and get the mini P.E.K.K.A. plus Zappies to fully counter the RG, but that RG just barely able to find that final shot.
Yeah, I mean, that was really nicely played by KK from top to bottom.
Absolutely. Magic Archer from Pandora, a Queen and a Skarmy from KK. You don't see that combo very often. Are we seeing Giant Graveyard right now? There's no way.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Yeah, Queen and Skarmy, not popular. Obviously, Skarmy pretty much always paired with the Skeleton King. And there's the Giant. Nice call there, Juicy. GY comes down. No Magic Archer to deal with those Skellies piling up. And Pandora might be in trouble here. Giant on tower. Skelly's on tower as well. That is a lot of damage done, but we have a big counter push and only 6 elixir to deal.
Yeah, most likely he's going to have minions or bats. He does have the minions, and the minions will do a decent job of flying above all these ground units. The Skarmy comes down as well. No Barbara or NATO came down from Pandora. So what a cheap, inexpensive, yet effective defense from KK. And that's what Giant Graveyard's all about. It's very similar to Lava Clone in the way that you throw everything on offense and you rely on that Skarmy minions kind of defense and just hope that your opponent isn't having some nice spells to deal with them.
24-27 to 16-53, and while I hate playing against Giant GY, I do kind of love to see it show up in competitive because it shows up very far and few between, but it does have a very high win rate here in the later parts of 2022.
Cannon Cart and Dark Prince on the defense. Pandora's main job here, the main goal that he needs to be having, is to DPS down the Giant as soon as possible so that the tower can begin to focus on the Graveyard. And it looks like KK doesn't decide to go for the Graveyard at all, realizing that Cannon Cart can apply so much DPS. And they're kind of just resetting right now. KK making sure to take out that Magic Archer, and another drill comes down.
Gonna need something to maybe catch this Golden Knight. This goes high with the Giant there. Minions in tow to defend. And here we go. GY comes in. Cannon Cart plus Magic Archer. Probably not a lot of damage gonna come down. But a NATO. There you go. NATO is the last card. Has to come in to pull that Giant back. I was gonna say not gonna be a lot of damage coming in from the Skellies, but you do have to be worried about that Giant.
That was some really solid defense from Pandora. I like what KK was trying to do. He wanted to basically go for that Giant Graveyard while the Cannon Cart was not going to be able to DPS down that Giant. KK's Archer Queen really getting some nice value here. He tries to keep it alive. He goes for another Giant Graveyard, and the Archer Queen does stay alive. Maybe we will see a second ability from that Queen later down the line.
And we should see that ability here in just a moment. Cannon Cart locks on the Queen. She doesn't get it off in time, and that is a bummer for Pandora. And now Pandora, or excuse me, for KK. And now Pandora can turn this around and get right back on the offensive. It's been a while since he's been on offense, but 2 Magic Archers in, gonna get some nice damage, evening up this game. Dark Prince shot comes in, and now we see the lead go back to Pandora. Another shot from the Dark Prince, another shot from the Magic Archer. 297 That was devastating.
Absolutely. KK gonna go for the Desperation Giant Grave over the bridge, but look at all the defense that Pandora has set up, and he goes for the Tornado as well, pulling that Giant across the bridge, allowing his Princess Tower to help shoot and take out these skeletons. And now we're gonna be seeing another massive counter push from KK, and I'm not sure if he can survive this.
Yeah, it feels like this might be the end here for KK. Pandora gets the drill in the back. He needs a miracle to survive, and it will be Pandora going on to World Finals, our final competitor out of the 8 that made it through today. Pandora secures that final spot. Great stuff there, incredible defenses. We saw that Giant GY overwhelm early on because the Magic Archer was out of cycle, the Cannon Cart was played up high, but then after that, it was all Pandora for the rest of... Well, actually, you know what? I'm sorry. It was KK for a long time, and then all of a sudden, it was just a wall. There was one GY that came down, Pandora had a Cannon Cart right on top of his Princess Tower, Magic Archer behind the King Tower, and then from that moment on, the game was a downhill battle for KK.
I think the biggest turning point there was when KK was going very aggressive. He went for that second Giant in front of his Archer Queen, and I don't know if you noticed it, but he actually missed a snowball on the Magic Archer. So that one Magic Archer stayed alive, and he didn't get that second Queen ability off, which allowed that huge counter push. And at that moment, the momentum shifted, and Pandora was able to have some really, really nice defense, stack up those big pushes in the triple elixir, where KK just doesn't have a big spell or anything like a Mega Knight or Giant Skeleton to deal with something like that.
Yeah, had that that Archer Queen gotten that ability off, that push would have been a lot less devastating to deal with. AC, you are sitting back and watching that final matchup between Pandora and KK. We have our finalist, our final finalist that has made it through here on our second to last day of qualifiers. Any thoughts on what you just saw? Any thoughts on the day as we're about to wrap up here before our LCQ tomorrow?
Well, I will say this. I certainly wish you would have asked me that question 45 seconds ago, and you didn't let Juicy J talk. Because I was so excited to talk about the missed snowball and then the activation not being, able to be utilized because of it. And now my whole point is just, I've got nothing else to add. He kind of talked about it all.
My bad.
Yeah, it's okay. We'll work on it. But yeah, I think overall, a lot of the day comes down to missed snowballs, missed spells. One sick fact, there was 2 rockets that were missed on the tower today, and both of them were by Faust, and both of them lost him the set overall.
Oh, that is such a painful statistic to take home on our Saturday of competition, but we know, Rocket... A lot of people talking about how they wish Rocket would get nerfed. Well, when you miss, it doesn't matter. Let's take a look here at our bracket, how the players were able to get through the day. It was all about getting that 3 wins, and the 8 people that were able to do so: Vitor, Sweep, Pandora, Doom, Sandbox, Morton, and then we have Keith and Air Surfer, who were completely untouched on the day. The other 8, Ender, Coffer Faust, KK, Surgical Goblin, Trainer Toby, Nikoko, Hugo, Yuya. They will all be back tomorrow. Same time, same place, but a very, very different format, guys. Tomorrow, single elimination bracket. 1 win, you move on. 1 loss, you go home. Now, 1 win doesn't guarantee you World Finals, but 1 loss guarantees you are not going there. Single elimination on the last day of competition. Guys, any words of advice to our competitors on a day like that?
You first?
Yeah,
Juicy's like, look, man, you just gave me crap for stealing your talking points, so you go ahead and you start this one.
This is the one where I actually needed time to think about my response. In terms of advice, be careful about going, too out of the way with your decks. You don't want to just have one of your decks that you believe is a winner and it just turns out to be a dud. Losing that one game in that fashion is always the most miserable experience. I'd rather get hard countered twice than lose because of a failed deck, which I thought was impressive, and then it turned out to not be the case. So just get creative, but be careful about, you know, putting yourself in those kind of positions.
Yeah, I think it's a good point you make about making small changes to your deck so that you succeed in duel mode, but not going too far outside the box, although maybe Sweep is someone that could argue those points. Juicy J, any words of advice for our competitors tomorrow in their single elimination bracket for their last chance to go to World Finals?
Yeah, now Josh took my talking point, because that's what I was going to say. I was like, yeah, you got to be going with the consistent decks, right? I mean, if you're in single elimination, you can't be letting anything up to the air. I would say the other thing I would give for advice is, you know, do that thing that I said, do that meditation, get that confidence going. Maybe play Classic Challenge. Just beat up some noobs in a Classic Challenge before your matches.
Whoa. I mean, they're not all. It's not all noobs in Classic Challenge, but let's be real here.
One of them was top 8 the 3rd day of season before. Andrew sent me a text showcasing that he was that high on ladder.
I told you. Guys, what a blast it's been. Like I said, LCQ bracket tomorrow, single elimination, 8 competitors fighting for their last chance to get to World Finals in Helsinki, Finland. 3-day event, Clash Fest, Clash of Clans, Clash Royale. $1 million on the line. We had 8 more move through today, 2 more tomorrow. You can follow along in the Tournament Hub. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. Go follow us on Twitch. Give Juicy, myself, and AC a follow over on Twitter. For everyone here at Clash Royale League, we will see you tomorrow. Same time, same place for the LCQ. And as always, remember, keep on clashing. See you tomorrow, guys.